eclipse or something there for a minute or two. It's now turned into full circle. Okay, we're looking at the thing. We're probably about 200 to 300 yards away. It looks like an eye. It appears to be maybe moving a little bit this way. It's further than it has been. Really? It's coming this way. It is definitely coming this way.
Because the green flag will be out. Now they can really go racing.
Crash off the Stablo. Oh my god, AC Cecilia.
Dave Gearing saying, you know what? Time's yours. You go past. DJ third, you're just letting him pass. Jenny Tamara up now into third place. Alexi Uchiakona's out the race at the halfway point. Alexi Uchiakona is out. For the race lead then, Yoni Tamara goes past William Levesque. 31 seconds out and away. Ekuma is put back out on track. Dave Keeling is right behind him. We've got a race in our hands now for P number 3, Jimmy.
Contact! Contact between the two cars there. The inside move there. Up into third place goes the Racing Blue car, and I think that is that done now.
Inex show themselves to be one of the most well-rounded teams in all of sim racing. And look at them now, score a 1, 2, 3. Yanni Tamala is a winner in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. He will win.
Jake Sturgis, winner tonight at Atlanta. PJ Sturgis from pole to checker. A career season for PJ Sturgis. He'll win the most races out of anybody on the 2016 campaign.
And look at them now. Score a 1, 2, 3. And they show themselves to be one of the most well-rounded teams in all of sim racing.
From the Texas Motor Speedway, LSR TV is happy to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the start of the 2017-2018 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series at LSR TV and iRacing Live, where we say hello from the Lone Star State for race number 1 of 10 on this 10-race campaign over the course of the 2017-18 campaign, and we're happy that you're going to be spending your night with us all season long as well. We'll get to the crew topside and throughout in just a moment, but first, Coop, cars already on track as we get set to go racing tonight for 250 miles at Texas, the staple mark for the season opener of this Pro Series.
Yeah, we're really excited to have everybody along with the Pro Series this season, and really exciting to see some of the guys who up and came last year and eventually became your NASCAR Peak Antifreeze champions. So really, really cool to see what happens this season as well here.
And we're going to have coverage not only live at this top split, but as some other ones as the night goes on. But cars rolling, let's take a look at your top qualifiers for this first race. It's going to be RLT and starting on a pole position. Winner in this Pro Series a year ago at 27.063 puts him on a pole with Keegan Leahy alongside in second, Casey Kerwin, Justin Bolton, and Nicholas Shelton to round out the top 5.
You got Jesse Schwartz, Blade Witt in 6th and 7th place, and you got Robbie Variable Jr. in the 8th position, Colton Davis 9th, and Jacob Herbert, he's going to be starting in 10th.
Rest of the qualifying order going to go across your screen, but the field getting set to go green flag racing already, as noted, 167 laps at the Great American Speedway. Going to be 250 miles by the time the course of the evening comes to a close, and we're happy that you're spending your evening with us as the pace car gets set to make the left-hand turn down to the pit lane, and the 18 machine is going to kick the road to the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, kicked off right here and right now as we say, let's go racing for the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series on 2017. The green flag is out. We're racing in Texas.
Your RLTN looks like he did last season, has a great lead over these guys, a good 3-4 car length lead, and then you've got them single file behind them, and then you've got the 9 of Justin Bolton, who didn't get quite a good start. He's going to be looking to be on the outside here between himself and the 23 car right there, going side by side for position, looking for a top 5 position right here. We've got only 167 laps. It sounds like a long race, but these laps will die down quick as we got a battle for second here.
Battle for P2 is on. The 3 is the one looking at it. It's Kerwin is going to drop back the 19 to Leahy, who actually started this race in the number 3 spot, or rather from second as they thought, but that put him outside of the front row. Gave Leahy the advantage off, but Casey Kerwin now in the number 3 machine is followed back. The 19's able to get back up where we were. We kind of reset everything up front. Not a good first couple of laps, though, either for the non-adjusted Bolton. Started outside of row 2. He falls to 7th in the very early goings. And again, with each of these races being set by qualifying order, the guys up front have better cars than Q net out, but over the course of 167 laps, we expect some shuffling to occur. Most of that's going to happen early in a battle inside of the top 10. In fact, for the final spot, top 10, Colton Davis in the 38 machine trying to work something as they start to single file out in front, but not for the race lead. Here we go. The 19 Leahy to the inside, and just as quickly as that car got back to P2, it goes to the race lead at lap number 4.
Look at Nicholas Shelton, too. He's in that green number 2 machine. He's behind all of this action. The 19 he's going to start flying away from these guys. He's absolutely on fire right now, but that number 2 machine, he's also doing pretty good. That's Shelton right here. So a lot of action going on, a lot of passing here earlier on. I would have to think that some of these guys had some really good qualifying speeds, and we're seeing some of these guys have some really good cars here after the first couple laps when these tires come up the temp. They're really looking for something right now. I mean, gosh, Keegan Leahy, he's got, I think, 8 car lengths over the number 3 of Casey Kerwin right now as we're approaching lap number 6 here.
Yeah, that car obviously lost the spot, didn't get all the way dropped back, but lost the positioning at the line off of the green flag of this race, got back to P2, it has taken off since then, and Nicholas Shelton, as you were just talking about, going to complete that pass for P2, so you can slot the number 2 up into that second position. That'll drop the 3 machine of Kerwin back right to where he started in 3rd position. So after the first couple of laps or so, everybody trying to shuffle out and find a spot in line. We're not completely single filed out, though, inside of the top 10. Small challenge back there for about, I think, what was 6th and 7th position, with Bolton and Schwartz going head to head. No exchange zone going to be between those drivers at the moment. And as we try to get our green flag legs underneath us and work into tonight's 250-mile contest, I said at the top of it all, as we quickly got this race underway, that we have a full team topside for you tonight. And in addition to myself, Evan Pasoko, and Austin Coop being alongside with you, we also have Nolan Scott and Chris Murdoch topside acting as our analysts for today's race. They'll be keeping us posted on the strategy this way and that, and that also have producers Cisco Scaramuza streaming with us here at LSR TV, and also live on iNex with Aleski Aloma broadcasting that. And not just the top split, we'll be keeping you posted on. Matt Busa is in the second split, and he'll be giving us updates on that as well as the night goes on. So Coop coverage top to bottom here for week 1.
Yeah, the reason those second splits are so important is because no matter what split in iRacing you are in for these races, you get split up between the total number of drivers that come. So we've got 41 drivers in this first one, and in that second split, we're probably going to have 40 or 41 as well. But those drivers get points too. Those drivers are going to get points throughout the race, and the winner of this race could be somewhere in the top 10, depending on how it goes. So, Nolan, this is definitely going to be something we talk about in the future.
Yeah, let us not forget that Joe Letterello and Phil Diaz both started in 3rd and 4th split in Pro Series last season. They both got into Pro, and they both retained in-pass license. So it goes to prove, if you can get that Pro Series license right now, that in-pass license right now, 2nd and 3rd split is a viable option to get that license.
And it also makes a big difference if you end up being the top qualifier into split number 2 as opposed to the 41st qualifier into the top split, but it definitely is plausible as we went to this new pro format last year. At a caution flag early, issues with Nicholas Doucette, the 41 Chevrolet, turned around on the front straightaway here, going to bring out the first yellow, completing lap 10, and across it over to lap number 11. He was running in 37th position at the top of the yellow.
Yeah, I'm looking at this incident off the turn 4. We're going to get a replay, and looks like he stepped up the track in the middle of the corner, and then once he came off 4, that thing just whipped around, and he did a good job of just making sure that when it did turn all the way around, that he just knocked it down and let it slide to the grass. Did a good mowing job for this Texas Motor Speedway, and was able to get out of harm's way. Probably the best way you could have a caution is to not get anyone involved, but that is going to change the way this race runs as we are on lap number 12.
We often talk about the differences and maybe some of the advantages when it comes to the difference between the sim and the real world. What do we most notably talk about? The fact that when it comes to strategy, which I'm sure will be a topic over the course of the night, these guys actually get to know how much fuel they have in a car by checking an estimated lap remainder and, of course, the exact number down to a tenth of how many gallons they have on board. Another benefit of the sim is that car still has its splitter as it went down to the grass. Obviously not the way you want to start, but still very much in this thing with an early yellow flag. And a lot of the conversation for us, at least on our side of things, before this race started, is what was the strategy going to be tonight? Well, not much of a variance in this one. Early yellow, everybody wants to come down to pit road. They're going to be led by the 19 Leahy. We'll see maybe what the calls are going to be, Chris, between 2 and 4 tires.
Yeah, you're always going to want to go with 4 tires here, Evan. You see Keegan Leahy leading him down to pit road. Tire wear is going to be very, very important with this track. Talked to the 3 of Casey Kerwin before this race started. He said the car was fast, but this track is really, really tough. We're looking at 30 lap runs, maybe somewhere in between the 30-40 lap mark. That's what we're looking at here. Tire wear is very, very important here, Evan, and you're always going to have to watch that lane because Nolan and I were talking about it before the race, and we estimate maybe about lap 30, 35, if it can keep green, is when that lane is going to move up and you're going to start seeing these guys towards the middle line.
And there's a little bit of changing up onto pit lane. The number 2 is Shelton, wins that fight off of pit road, leapfrogs Leahy, and will go from P2 to P1. So the 19 machine is going to be given the outside of the front row. And Coop, that wasn't all the excitement down there either.
Yeah, it looks like Jesse Schwartz wanted to come down pit road. He's coming to the number 6 stall. And I'm unsure what's going on now because he's actually getting passed by just about, looks like he may have a speeding penalty of some sort. I'm really unsure, but he won the battle off of pit road because he didn't actually come down pit road, or he didn't come to a stall. So there's that, and then Jarl Tien went through his box and had to back up. So the number 18 machine that started first place, well, he had the best box, but was not able to use it to his advantage. So he will lose quite a few positions. And the same for the 14, and I'm still unsure what the 14's going through right now. Looks like he's going to the very end of the field, so going from first to 41st.
But even bigger blow in that regard as we're slowed here in the top split. Matt, not the same story in the split number 2. Things still green over there.
That's correct, Evan. Second split, we got Mitchell Hunt taking the lead from Brad Davies right now, actually, as the caution comes out. And Will Cooley led the field to the green and is so far fallen back to 6th. Back to you.
That's your update right now from split number 2. We'll be checking in with Mr. Booth over the course of the night as he keeps us posted down there because, again, as we just talked about, not only does this one that we're watching here live, split 1, count, and obviously the most important, with the most amount of points on the line, it is possible to get the points to make the top 10 or the top 20 to be able to either lock yourself into or confirm that you've at least got a fighting chance to race week to week in the 2018 NASCAR Peak Anniversary Series. But right now, we're getting set to go back and away after an early yellow. Pace car down and in. A green flag now with 14 laps complete from Texas. Back underway. And new race leader Nicholas Shelton, who I think had some of the most speed in that first run, got the lead on pit road. He leads to 1 and 2. Jumping in front of Leahy, who's going to lose, I think, P2 for the second time tonight on a restart. And it's the same driver taking it away from him as Kerwin jumps up to 2nd.
Yeah, that looked really like the exact same thing right there that we had on the very initial start of the race. But the one thing that I'm not seeing is Shelton getting away from that number 3 of Casey Kerwin. I can see that these guys are probably going to battle here pretty soon. I think Shelton's car comes in on the long run quite easily. But right now, he is the leader, and I think that's the best place you want to be if you have a long run car, is you can defend that position and make it happen. But that 19 as well of Keegan Leahy, he looks just bad fast right here. He's starting to catch number 3 of Casey Kerwin in the number 3 car to 4.
And it's the exact same thing we saw happen the first time. Not a good jump at the outside of the front row. You fall back to 3rd. Last time that happened, the 19 quickly got 2nd, and almost immediately after that, took over the race lead and pulled away. That's when we saw the yellow come out and him lose that 1 position upon the pit lane. But now we'll see if he can close down Shelton, gap about equidistance in front of him to 1st and behind him from 3rd. But right there in the center of the quarter, you can see the 19 pulling just a little bit better than Shelton. He's not driving it in too hard. He's not getting a huge run off of the corner. It was the center of 3 and 4 where he made up the bulk of that distance, now within 2 car lengths, and again doing it on this end of the racetrack in 1 and 2.
Yeah, it just seems like something he has on the short runs is this corner speed. His exits and entrances are pretty good as well, but in these corners in particular, at least from what I'm looking at right here, is he looks like he's trying to size up Shelton right here. He's actually going to go to the bottom. We're going to have a battle for the lead right here going to turn number 1. Almost touches the grass right there, but he's going to go to the very bottom of the track. They're getting pretty close here into turn number 1 and 2. It looks like the 19 is going to have the advantage on the bottom of the track, but actually it looks like he will not get it quite yet. They're still going to go side by side in turn number 3, Evan.
And turn 2 is not an easy corner of this Texas Motor Speedway to navigate, so if anything, I think that has to show. Not only does Shelton want to defend this race lead for all he's got as he successfully does so, Leahy drops it behind for the time being, now at lap number 20, but you've also got to have a lot of confidence in the racing ability of that guy in your inside, because Shelton gave zero room for Leahy's machine to push up even the slightest the last time in turn 2. They would have been into each other. Both drivers, though, clean up front as they battle for the race lead continues on, but the 2 machine, I think, wanting to fight that hard early, thinking that as long as he can keep the 19 behind him for these opening couple of laps, maybe he'll be better on the longer run, and having the 19 behind him obviously would help him transition to the longer run if he feels his car's a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm starting to look through a little bit throughout this field right here. The number 10 of Steven Wilson's on the outside of a few drivers right here, looking to get some positions. Looks like the 23 of Robbie Vrabel. He's actually going to get past on the outside here. And Vrabel, he went from 8th to 6th here, but the number 10 of Steven Wilson, he's one of our biggest movers right now. He is now in the, looks like the 6th position after starting 16th. So he's up 10 positions. Driver to watch throughout this field right now, in the middle of this pack, is that number 10 machine coming out of turn number 2.
Yeah, Wilson is right in the middle of the top 10 right now, split in P6, a little bit further back, up in a fight with that 38 of Davis, the one machine of Garrett Lowe at the bottom of the racetrack. He's the one going backwards in this instance. The one got real tight as Michael J. Johnson also going to pass him up on the outside of the racetrack, so drop the one machine 2 spots as he goes from 10th to 12th, and now some more side by side in front of them with the 5 and the 23 machine. But Vrabel trying to go top side on Sturgis. Sturgis goes all the way up against the fence, doesn't allow him to go there, and I thought the 23, but it crossed him up, decides not to. They stay single file, that fight for 8th and 9th.
Yeah, and I think when we start to talk about PJ Sturgis in particular, and I think Nolan can definitely talk a lot about this better, is that he's having he's going to try and have a comeback season, and I think Nolan can kind of explain that a little bit better right here.
Well, yeah, PJ. I mean, he had a tough year last year. He suffered a major concussion in his real life racing accident. He races midgets up north. Him and Jake both. I know Jake and Phil Diaz are alongside him right now, spotting for him. And it's a big year for PJ. I think it's a turnaround year. He's obviously still suffering from some of the consequences of that concussion. He gets better and better every week, every month. As we know, concussions are a long-term issue, and you have to go through. And this was a very major concussion, but he's here tonight, and he's really turning it on. Having a good run right now in 8th position, so I'm rooting him on, and I hope he recovers. I hope he recovers from this issue, and it looks like he's doing just fine thus far.
Yeah, everybody's doing just fine so far. One thing I do want to make note of here, Nolan, and guys, this lane is moving up. You can see the 2 and the 19 start to run that middle lane, and just look how much the 19 of Keegan Leahy has caught on that 2 machine all over the back bumper going down that back straightaway. They're running the middle lane now, and it's really, really fast. That lane's moving up quickly and really quick to be on lap 26 and all running the middle lane, Evan.
When we saw the 19 of Leahy on the inside of Shelton last time, Coop, we kind of thought that meant the 19 had the spot. That battle's going to have to wait. Another caution flag is out. It is a lot of smoke on the front straightaway. Couple of cars trying to avoid Robbie Vrabel Jr. The 23 Chevrolet was scored inside of the top 10, and he has found problems at turn number 4.
Yeah, it's turn number 4 again. Unsure what's going on here, but it actually has to do with just that, just turn number 4. And I think, yeah, it's really weird how these things happen. Looks like the driver behind him, which unfortunately is PJ Sturgis, they hit the wall at the exact same time. Sturgis was just following him, and they both spun on the inside. And I think anybody who's been in the service, anyone who's been behind the wheel of a race car has been in that situation before. So I think a commentator's curse that we have at LSR TV, really unfortunate for PJ and for that number 23 machine, but they both go around off turn number 4.
And when you're riding behind somebody like that, Nolan, I know that we always say you're tracing somebody, and that's why we see incidents like that. One guy hits the wall, the guy immediately behind them does as well. When you're tracing somebody like that, are you doing it consciously, or is it kind of a subconscious thing to just follow where that guy's going in front of you?
Well, it's definitely a subconscious thing. I don't believe in the commentator's curse all that much, but it's obvious. PJ left the session, so there's obviously something bothering him. It might be that concussion. The road racing, it's a little bit easier to get in a road car. You have a little bit more open field. You get in these ovals, you get in these bull rings, and you go round and round and round. And they say it's a lot more difficult on the mind when you suffer from a concussion to recover in such a setting. A lot harder to concentrate. But yeah, obviously he just followed him up. Got into the outside wall. Didn't look overly major, but I just think there's something going on in that head where he just wanted to get out of that race car and call it a night. So that's apparently the case. But yeah, it's totally subconscious. You get in the zone, and sometimes you get in that arrow push situation, and a lot of times you can't recover from it if you're already committed, especially if the guy in front of you misses the corner. Robbie did a much larger arc than PJ. PJ was down and in, so I just think he watched him go up the track. He got arrow push and just made contact with that outside wall. But looks like it's not over for PJ Sturgis.
An eventful trip down to the pit lane. We did not see that swap out up front like we did last time. It was Shelton in first and off first with Leahy, and then bolted Kerwood and Wilson through the top 5. But I think Yarlty and again, Coop, having issues getting into the box.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm unsure what's happening to our pole winner here tonight, because that is the second time he has gone through his box. He hasn't missed it. He's still with the pack, of course, but I'm unsure of what's going on. He's just kind of went through it each time. It's not by a whole lot, but he's always had to go back, and it always takes a little bit more time. But yeah, like you said, Nicholas, Shelton, and Leahy, they're going to be still first and second, and I think the next few guys behind him are still going to be the same as well. And to be fair, I'm really looking forward to seeing this restart, mainly because Leahy's going to be in the same position he was last time. He's going to have to do this another time, and I think that's just going to be one of those things where I think he's going to have to try something different, because I think he has the speed, the short run speed to get this lead here on this restart. But Nicholas Shelton, he's shown that he's not going to give it up.
And to swap it out on the second row means that if the 19 is to lose second for a third consecutive time on the drop of the green flag coming out of turn 4, it would have to be the non-adjusted Bolton this time, who moves up on him, because at 3 of Kerwood, who has restarted both times inside of row 2, this time is 4th. That puts him outside on that very same row. Couple of bigger movers still up front, though. Stephen Wilson +9. He runs it a 5th at the moment. Jacob Harbert's is 6th. Colton Davis 7 at pole. Cedric Tien's fallen back to 8th spot with Garrett Lowe at 9th and Bladewit to round out your top 10 at the moment. Of 40 cars on the lap. Again, the full running order running across the top of your screen as we get set to go back green flag racing and to put 30 of tonight's 167 laps behind us in this 2017-18 Pro Series opener. It's another fantastic start for Shelton. He is off and away, but this time Leahy picked up on it, and the 19 is defending P2 to turn number 1, and he's got it. The fight will be for 3rd.
And that was hard fought for the 9 right here, and looks like he's going to get the 3 right here in the exit. Not going to be clear, but he is going to be right here in front of him to have the advantage here coming in the corner. You can see the 3 already starting to duck down right underneath, and they're going to be single filing for them out their first 6 or 7 positions. And then they're side by side with the 1 and 38 of Colton Davis and Garrett Lowe. But those first 2 cars, they are the class of the field, it looks like at this point, as they have both kind of already stretched their legs a little bit before these guys behind them. About 3/10 between those front 2 guys and the other 2 guys.
For the first time, instead of going forwards, Kerwood goes backwards on this restart, falls from 3rd to 4th as Bolton is able to really just defend. They were side by side. I'd call it a win in that fight, courtesy of the number 9 car. Also fighting inside of the top 10. Garrett Lowe can't get away from any of this excitement. He's going up against the 18 of Tien, who's been having issues on the pit lane, but this time picking up a spot on the racetrack and using that higher line. You can see most drivers still basically going all the way down to that white line, but the 18 a good 2-3 lengths up, and he's going to be able to push his way top side on Davis for 7th.
Yeah, still side-by-side battle here, and I think right now is the point in the race where you start to see that second line start to really bring the action. But which setup is really tuned up for it? I think that's always a question I have, because I'm never in the garage area to do that. We're up here in the booth just watching the action, but I'm seeing that second line is starting to have a function here. on lap 34 of 167.
And that's still early on, so you figure as this night continues to wear through, right now we're just barely scraping the surface on closing in on quarter distance. It's going to be a completely different racetrack by the time we get to the midway point in this race, start to count the laps down then from that point on towards the end of this first of 10 races on the season. Still fighting though inside of the top 10. Every time I look and every time somebody's side by side, it is the one of Garrett Lowe. And most of the time it's been good tonight. He's +4, but he is going to lose out on this battle as he tried to get back at Tien. They're still going to be side by side. The ones keeping their nose at the bottom of the racetrack and now clear in that fight for 7th and 8th position. So a lot of excitement at the tail end of the top 10 there. There has been fighting going on from there on through 20th position, like Patrick Mallett holding off Chad Lawton at a battle for 15th and 16th position, and so on and so forth throughout the pack. But now with a couple of laps under our belt off for the race start, people start to single file things out a bit. Closest fight, in fact, inside of the top 5 is for the race lead, with Leahy once again creeping back up on Nicholas Shelton.
I think when you start to think about clean air, that's definitely what I start to think about, the difference between Leahy and Shelton right now. I think they both have impeccable speed. I mean, just look at the difference between those two and Bolton and Kerwin. And Kerwin and Bolton, they both have really good cars before the guys behind them as well. It's just these two guys up front, and they are starting to get really, really close next to each other here as they continue to log laps. Maybe just kind of sit where they're at, but I know they're not really. I know they're not sitting on their hands because they are searching for speed, as the 19's going a little higher in the corner, as Chris noted just a little bit ago. But the 19's going higher in the corner on turns 1 and 2. He's going to go to the bottom here, try and look for the pass. It's not going to happen right now. He's in turn number 4, but he was looking.
And not to distract from our eyes up front in the battle for the race lead, just have a breaking news bulletin that Garrett Lowe is in a side-by-side fight. Johnson was able to pick up a spot on him, so Lowe now falls to 10th position. And that's not the only fight going on back here. Now Tien finally topside and clearing Colton Davis in a fight for 7th and 8th position. Interesting that the moves back here are going topside, and at every time Leahy gets close to the 2, he seems to want to peek the nose to the inside. That's either A, he feels like that's going to be the place to make a move, or B, Shelton's almost kind of teasing him or tempting him into that by leaving a half a lane on the bottom of the racetrack so that the 19 tries to go down there, while the 2 can protect the high side a little bit more, because at least when he drops back like we're seeing now and trying to catch back up, Leahy is utilizing that line that's a little bit higher up.
Yeah, and looking at the lap times of these guys, they're 2/10 and faster than these guys are behind him, but he's going to get himself a really good run here. He's going to look on the inside on the right at the flag stand right here, and turn 1 and 2, I think, is one of his better corners, but he's going to be on the bottom. He likes to be on the top side, at least what we've seen so far. Does he have the nose in front of him before the caution, though? Who knows? Looks like he's going to have the position based on that caution. I don't think he would have had it, Evan. I don't think he would have.
Good timing, but the nose was in front at the moment of yellow. You don't have to clear anybody to get that, and the issue is with the 30 on of Benjamin Nelson, and it is in turn number 4. Contact between he and the number 14 machine, Jesse Schwartz, in a battle for 29th and 30th. That 39 machine, lower line in the corner, just got tight, pushed up off, right in front of the nose of the 14, and it was the slightest bit of contact, I think, if any, that sent that 39 machine around. Second time we've seen an innocent spin like that. At a quarter number 4, bring it to yellow, and we slow things down for the 3rd time tonight. And on that note, Matt Musa, things in the second split have gotten a little bit more dicey as well since we last checked in with you.
They certainly have. We had a 12-car pileup on the front stretch about 15 laps ago here. Took out some really strong contenders such as Ethan Lane, Jordy Lopez, Caleb Eisenhower, to name a few. And right now we have Brandon Pipgrass leading, which ironically is the same team as Nicholas Shelton. So we got Slipingo Motorsports leading both top 2 splits here.
That's an update on a split number 2. Right now, back up at the top split, we're under the caution flag at lap number 42. Third yellow on the evening, and I would assume that means it is, as they come, it is the 3rd trip down to the pit lane. Leahy has both lost the race lead down here and has maintained it. We'll see if Nicholas Shelton can figure anything out. Of course, I is going to be back at the 18 of Jarl Tien to see if he's able to successfully find that number 1 pit stall, and if he can, that should give him a good shot at picking up some spots. It's always the advantage under yellow flag pit stops of qualifying with that very last stall on a pit road, and these guys are all pushing it up to to that white line on the exit of the box, but it looks like everybody up front safe at in, Coop, and the call is going to be overwhelmingly 4 tires and fuel. Winner off of pit road amongst that group, the 19 barely in front of Shelton. You did see David Washington's 12 become first off of pit road. He missed his box back in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, so he's gonna have to make an audible or be the fiend in the mix of everything. But I have a feeling he'll probably come back down. You know, it's really interesting. You know, I know a lot of these drivers don't typically make these kind of mistakes. You know, I don't think I've ever seen David Washington make that kind of mistake before. But you're on the big stage here, and when you start to race with people who are equal or better skilled than you, I think that does start to get to you. So he is going to come down pit road. I think it'd be a little crazy to stay out, but he will definitely come down and surrender that lead back to Keegan Leahy, and then he'll have to go to the very back.
And I think that shows more than anything just how important tires are. I think that right there proves it any more so than somebody taking 2 versus 4 tires could, because Washington was scored in 22nd position. And in this race, we're averaging a yellow about every 10 to 15 laps, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And if the 12 feels like that he can't stay out up front on old tires and not lose more than 22 positions, well, that tells you that tires are pretty important. So in 10, he's going to swallow it, and he will fall to 40th, but he will be able to get fresh tires, but it's going to kick him all the way down to the end of the line, and it is going to be a long night for him. Again, if you're going to have issues, I'd take it in the first 44 laps of the race as opposed to the last 44, but especially in races like this where, again, and if you're not familiar with the iRacing service and how this official racing works, it's kind of a difficult concept to kind of get our grasp on, and we introduced it back to this Pro Series when this format returned last year for the 16 and 17 campaign. The fact that if you're 40th in this race, not only are 39 drivers in front of you scored more points, but you've got a good handful of guys in the second and third splits scored more points for you as well. So 10 races, I think, is a good number, though, to be able to balance out some of those bad and good nights. But I mean, the best way to find yourself into the top 10 lock-it positions for the 2018 NASCAR PK Entry Series, obviously, to not make mistakes, and we've seen quite a few on opening night.
Yeah, it's possible that the 12 didn't see or didn't know where his pit box was because his spotter fell out, so perhaps that's part of it. But either way, still something you've got to get, but I'm sure this race is far from over. We still have more than 100 laps to go, and that means even this race up front is going to be a lot different, probably in 100 laps or so. These two are really, really strong up front, and we haven't really seen a really long green flag run, Evan, which is something I think we may get here soon. I say that, and that may not happen, actually, but I'd say that we're probably looking to get that here on this one, and just see how it shakes out.
And the yellows have been nice and quick here so far tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. Again, still a long way to go with a little bit over 120 laps. I think it'll be 122 by the time we come by the start-finish line. But again, you get very quick cycles and exchanges, and we get right back to the action. Familiar face up front, the 19 Leahy to the inside, the 2 of Shelton to the outside of the racetrack, and again, just so good on the restart box is the 19 Chevrolet in front. But here's an interesting chance for Kerwin to try to go P4 to P2. He's got the outside on the fight for second. Can't get up to speed, though, in the center of the corner through the gears.
I think he knew that if he did not go for it, he was going to lose even more positions. I think that was it was an aggressive move to the unexperienced guy, but he had to basically go out through the outside. Maybe he might get a position, but I feel like the driver behind him in that 21 machine, and Jacob Harberts, he might have been right there to actually to try and sneak a position in, but he's actually doing pretty well against Justin Bolton right here, and they're having a great battle right here on this restart here 1 and 2 with these fresh new tires, and they're getting really close here at number 2. Getting a little too close for comfort for me, but yeah, that battle for third is intense right here.
And it's been counterintuitive to what we saw all race. We had noted that it was kind of a disadvantage for the 3 machine to restart topside early and thinking that maybe that would have given him a better chance. He certainly put up a better fight that time around than he did in the past. But guys, it's still not specifically a good place to be, at least on restarts. It takes a couple of laps, Nolan and Chris, for that to work in.
Absolutely it does. It usually takes about 3 to 5 laps in my opinion. Back to Keegan, who's just really pulled away up front. I've said in the offseason, this guy has stepped his game up more than anybody. He has dominated in the offseason. Every race I join, this cat is kicking my tail in the ground. If he can stay clean, I think this is his year to get in, because the pace Shelton and Keegan are putting out at the front right now is almost to a level of untouchability. Shelton made it clear early on in the race that he wasn't willing to give the position up. I think we're going to see these two go toe-to-toe before the end of the night.
We are, and they've been pretty dominant throughout the opening night of this race, guys. And Keegan has really known how to work this track, and that's really what he's best at, is moving around, finding the lanes. You see him running that second groove opposed to Shelton running that bottom, and you'll see him diamond it down, get the run off the corner. So that's exactly what you're going to start seeing other drivers start doing as the race goes on. But right now, Keegan Leahy, Nicholas Shelton, class of the field.
He's out by 0.3 of a second in front of Shelton. We have yet to see that two close the gap in, like has been so accustomed to seeing this year, or rather, I guess this year is true, but what I'm thinking about is so far on the night. With 50 laps complete, the gap between first and third is over a second, so the top two are starting to pull a good little bit of a distance here as we kick off the fourth green flag run of this race. Still fighting going on. The 27, Michael J. Johnson, just now punching his way into the top 10. He's trying to get up to Jeremy B. Davis. Thought he might have had a run on the outside that time, and instead Blade Witt comes charging back up down low. So right now fighting for 11th position for the driver who right now has got up 10 spots.
Yeah, still a lot of side-by-side action still from, I'd say, that restart here. We're still seeing all these guys really trying to sort of out. That top side, I think, is starting to really start to work itself in. Nolan said after 3 to 5 laps it starts to work in. Well, we're kind of at that point. And outside really looks like it's where you want to be as this race is starting to kind of come to fruition, about getting closer and closer, about halfway to it. And you know, when I start to look throughout this field and look at all the drivers in here, something I like to talk about just a little bit is just the fact that all these drivers are rated by iRating. They don't get to choose their number, and so I always think of the driver in the number 1 machine. Well, the driver who was in the number 1 machine a lot last season, and Evan, you know this driver, we know this driver very well, he just happens to be the champion, was in that number 1 car almost all of last season. So I'm just curious if that number 1 machine will turn up later on in the season. But right now, I mean, it is, I don't think it's going to be that story, because these trunks here are just absolutely gone.
And it is no walk in the park to, win in this Pro Series just on any given night, let alone when, again, we transitioned the format back last season to include all of the divisions and the splits, just like it is a regular iRacing official series. And what the number 1 did last year was quite impressive, and obviously we saw that translate into a title at NASCAR's top oval level here on the sim racing side of things this year. So the Pro Series is and always has been the place to keep your eye on for drivers, just because we're technically fighting for 31st through 40th and then 41st through 43rd on the grid. And the NASCAR Peak Anniversary Series does not at all mean that the drivers in this cannot take it to those guys if they're able to qualify in and then start to go championship racing come February. But at least for the moment, again, the season's still very young, and just as it was last season, all the same tracks that you saw in 16-17 are with us, just because we bumped back up with the absence of a build week we had last year. We're back at 10 races instead of 9. Dover International Speedway back on the calendar this year. Going to be the second to last race before the ever so eventful finale at Daytona International Speedway. The season will conclude on January the 30th. On the other side of the New Year's break. But in this one, the gap between the top two very even, still 0.3, all while they're pulling on 3rd, 4th, 5th, and so on and so forth the back. So an impressive running rate round for the 19 and the 2.
Yeah, and I'd say that gap is getting quite a bit slimmer, and yeah, it's about a 1/10 that time between Leahy and Shelton. And I think I had thought this earlier about the 19 car. He had a really good short run speed, but right now that number 2, who has good long run speed to catch this pack earlier on, he's starting to catch that 19 of Keegan Leahy. And I believe, like Nolan said, this is going to be a close battle between these guys.
Absolutely. We had an opportunity to work with Shelton last year. He's a heck of a guy. I really think a lot about him. He had some rough luck He, didn't finish as many races as he should have, but let me tell you something. He's one of the best hot lappers, best pacers in the field, and he's doing something tonight I've never seen him do. He's taking his time. The first 5-10 laps of these runs, well, 10 laps is pushing, but first 5 laps of these runs, Keegan's going all out from the beginning and just slamming it down. Shelton's taking his time. He's playing this smarter than he did last year. He's obviously learned a lot, and it's paying off. You see now, Bolton was the fastest car on the track last time by, and that time he was once again the fastest car. So there's a strategy here that these guys are trying to utilize. Keegan's going all out from the beginning because he's expecting short run after short run. I would also be expecting short runs, but these guys like Justin Bolton, who have all this experience, and now apparently Shelton, who seems to learn a lot in the off season, is really playing this smart, taking care of his equipment, and he's right on the back bumper of that number 19 car going into 1 and 2.
But into tonight, I would have expected turn 2 to be the place to keep an eye on, but 4 has had a lot of issues, and Shelton pushing it to the limit. And I think the 19 Leahy recognizing that, backed off at 1 and 2. And we have a new race leader once more at lap 61. It is Nicholas Shelton back to the point. He was really giving it, though, that last time in turn 4. Sideways right up to the wall, and Leahy saw that, dropped back, and will fall comfortably into an uncontested P2 at the moment. So Shelton has been able to work his way back up front, but unlike in those prior runs this time, taking it a little bit easier and more so into the longer run of this thing now as we close it 5 laps away from 100 to go.
Yeah, and I am looking at Justin Bolton right here. He does appear to have one heck of a long-run speed car, but he does have about a second to catch Nicholas Shelton. And oh, by the way, he also has to get through Keegan Leahy to get to him. And yeah, it's early on the night and still not even halfway, but I'm expecting that 9 car to keep on pushing forward. His lap time was about a 10th and a half in front, but it doesn't matter now. We've got ourselves a caution. It's not turn 4. Oh, big wreck, turn number 1.
Couple of cars, and James Curl is one of them, was scored 27th, and his number 6, I can't tell what the manufacturer is because both the front and the back of that car are gone. It's a Chevrolet. It all started in front of him, though. Things got all kinds of out of control, and I think Jesse Schwartz may have been the first driver to go around. He was. He tagged the back of the 37 machine. It was Ryan Doucette who got up and I think into that outside wall first. Turn 4 continues to be the place to be, and that's where all the contact between those two happened. And then the 10 machine, I think the 40 that was, came sliding through Alex Bergeron. The 6 lifted for him. He got punted, and that's why a mess that started in turn 4 went all the way down the front stretch to turn 1.
Yeah, I said it was in turn 1, but it actually was in turn 4. I was right. My instinct was right, but Bergeron almost had that car saved, but it just was in the wrong place for that 6 car of James Curl to be. And I think for him, it was going to be a long night anyways, being in 27th at the point. But my goodness, that was really an unfortunate ending to his night right there as he's in the pits. And we're going to have pit stops right now.
Yeah, we got them all coming down pit road, Coop, and we saw just on that run as it was winding down just how important those tires were. So 4 tires and fuel for all these drivers up front and pretty much everybody coming down pit road. Keegan Leahy pretty much caught a break there because, as you guys were talking about, Justin Bolton was coming really, really fast on that long run speed. So I think Keegan knows what he has to do to conserve the tires and be a little bit better on those long run, because he pretty much, like Nolan said, had it down to the ground and was going as hard as he could. So I think we'll see a nice conservative Keegan Leahy this time around.
Race off for the pit lane, going to be won by that number 2 machine of Nicholas Shelton. And as we continue to repeat turn 4, turn 4, turn 4, Matt, that's a trend that you're seeing as well down in split number 2.
We sure are. In split 2 right now, we have a new leader up front. Ian McQueen, representing Gale Force Racing, is just taking the lead from Mitchell Hunt. We have Malik Ray, Brandon Pickrass, and Brian Blackford running out the top 5. And one thing I'm noticing here is it appears the bottom lane is coming back into effect. At first, all the cars are going to the middle and the top, and it looks like that lane has now got a lot of heat and rubber in it, and now the bottom is the place to be.
We will keep an eye to see if that also is the way that things are going to work out here in the top split as we work out lap number 65 of 167. And as always, coverage here tonight on LSR TV and iRacing Live of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSR TV. Whether you spend your time on the sim behind the wheel, on the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is your go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself a basic download of the full pro version today online by going to www.joel-real-timing.com for more information. The official timing software of LSR TV. I'm actually surprised that as I transitioned back down to what's happening trackside, Coop, the lights are still on top of the pace car. Feels like these yellows have been going by nice and quickly tonight, that hasn't been a thing. But what it means is when they go out, assuming that happens this time around, we will get a restart with 67 laps complete and still 100 laps to go.
Yeah, just under 40 minutes so far in this race, and we've got only about 66 laps in, and I think we've really kind of paced ourselves. And if we're going at the rate we're going, we're probably going to get 3 or 4 more cautions before this one's over, and that doesn't count in the competitive nature that we always see later on in the races. That I'm sure we will see. It looks like these guys are looking to double up, so I would assume that we're going to get our one to go this time. Yeah, it looks like the iRacing official pace cars lights are off, and they're ready to go again. But something I'm, I think, just looking at right now is the strive from a couple drivers coming up through the field. Michael Guest is our biggest mover, undoubtedly. 26th driver. From 39th to 12th, and then Tyler Hudson, he's coming from 26th to 8th. So those 2 drivers are ones to watch, as they have absolutely just had some things go their way, or have just kind of made some luck. We really haven't put a whole bunch of spotlight on those guys. I guess you can put Brad Mayar in that one as well. He started in the 40th position, and he's up in the 17th. So those are some guys that we really want to take a look at.
Yeah, big movers. We're going to see more and more of that as the night goes on. He's plus 23 in front of him. You got the likes of Benefield and King also in the positive. So many more drivers going to positive. I think the biggest mover on the night is Michael Guest in P12, up 27 spots from the start of this race. The familiar duo up front, though, Shelton on the bottom and Leahy on the outside. Going to bring us back to it. 100 laps to go from the Lone Star State of Texas. Green flag flies, and we go back at another picture-perfect jump for the control car on the inside.
They are really, really bunched up here for that 2nd, 3rd, 4th position right behind Shelton. He's got to be loving all this action he's seeing behind him, as there's a lot of cars. We're starting to sort itself out right now, and the 19 has really shown how good he is. Oh, wow, look at the block from the 3. Goes right to the top to make sure that line does not move, and that was a really good move, I'd say. And that 19, he's trying to make that top side work, but it's not going to quite get the positioning he needs at the moment. But he will clear the 9 right there, coming to the flag stand right now. And that 9 of Bolton, he kind of got swallowed up right there. There's a lot of cars behind him that are really looking to get him on this short run. I know that 9's got the long run speed, but he's got to make sure he keeps those guys behind him so he can make advantage of it. As the battle for 2nd place, actually, the 3 looks like he's going to let him by. I'm guessing it looked like that was an intentional move by the 3 to let that number 19 by.
I mean, he dropped the lane out of turn 2, but it really didn't look like that car got all that sideways. And I was just thinking to myself that the 3 really wanted to keep the 19 in front of him, and maybe he got a little bit loose, wanted to protect the bottom because that's a faster place to be on the restart, just because when we got to the green flag stretch, you know, after those 5 to 10 laps, Leahy was still faster than Kerwin, but not by a lot, to the point where if the 3 had the positioning, he might have been able to keep him honest and at least make a fight out of a battle for 2nd and 3rd. But Kerwin is going to drop it in line behind, so it's Leahy in 2nd and Kerwin right now in 3rd, Nolan.
I think that's just a battle of the brains. Casey knows he doesn't have the short run pace that Keegan has. Keegan is in a league of his own on the short run pace. He says, I'm going to give it to you, man. Give it to me later. I'm going to let you run your race. He's going to give up that position. He's going to save those tires like he did last run. Him and Bolton are going to do the exact same thing, run after run. We're right at a situation here where we're looking at 33, 34 lap runs. So I don't see the need really to push too hard right now. We've got a lot of racing left. I think Casey's just playing it smart, letting him go, letting him have the position. He's going to see if he can run down Shelton, and Shelton's already got a big gap.
Yeah, no, and I had the chance to rack the number 3 of Casey Kerwin's brain under that last caution. He said he's made some adjustments to the car. He said it takes about 15 laps for that Ford to get up and going, but he said the car feels good, so maybe just trying to ride it out, wait till that car hits full stride, and he's going to be right back up there before you know it, guys.
Those are the drivers who are out again right now, second and third. In fact, they are both, though, closing in a tad bit on Shelton. Kerwin gave up the spot, but it doesn't mean that he's dropped off the face of the earth. A much better go-around this time off for the restart for those not named Shelton or Leahy, because, again, 2 laps off of the last restart. The top 2 were a second and more out in front. This time, keeping them a little bit more honest as we continue to race. As we work lap number 74 down, closing in on the halfway point. When we get there, we'll take a look top to bottom at your LSR TV midway race break. But just want to let you know what's happened as far as drivers dropping out of this thing. 38 are scored on the lead lap. You have Nigel DeYoung right now in 39th position. He is 2 laps down. That is the only driver not on the lead lap that's on track. James Curl is 40th and 10 laps down. He is not out of this race, but that car is on pit road and not active at the moment. And then, as we noted earlier, PJ Sturgis was involved in an accident. That car is done for the night. He has retired it, and he will finish 41st out of 41 cars here this evening. So for the amount of yellows that we have seen, all of the relatively minor incidents, almost all of them happening in turn number 2. Still a good, healthy number of cars with 75 laps complete.
And that last one was really the biggest one we had. I think a total of 4, maybe 5 cars were involved, and some of them are still out there running around. I know Ryan Doucette, he had a lot of right side damage. I'm surprised he's still out there. Actually, 14 seconds back though, so he does have a pretty injured race car at this moment. But I'd like to take a look at one driver who is still doing battle side by side, and that's number 1 of Garrett Lowe, still fighting. It looks like that's the number 34 of Adam Benefield. He's trying to make his bid this season, as a lot of other drivers are. Trying to get that run on the underside of that number 1. And I'll tell you what, Garrett Lowe has been in so many battles today. You know, every time I look at him, and I think every time you've looked at him, Evan, he's in the battle just about every single time. And so he's got the 34 and the 15 behind him. And I'd say he's got himself a long-run car at this point, just because of the sole fact that he's lost a few positions on this restart.
Just scrolling through, trying to keep updated on everything that's happened in top 20. Fight a little bit further back. Colton Davis, somebody else who, whenever I look back at the pack, he's in a fight. He's trying to get a spot back from the 27 to Michael J. Johnson. They've had a couple of exchanges tonight. The 38 cannot clear that time to turn number 2, and the fight will resume about 4.5 seconds off of the battle for the race leader, which I think may be at the biggest margin it's been all night. At 0.7 of a second, Shelton looking very good, adjusting to the long runs, better and better each time, I think, as we continue to work through the night. The first couple of times, we got through 5-10 laps, the likes of Leahy and people caught up to him, passed him back. Not the last 2 times around the 2 looking good now.
I also think that maybe the 19 has adjusted just a slight bit, hasn't been going so quickly. He has I think he always has had that speed, like we saw earlier, but I think possibly what has happened is that he's maybe toned it down. He's still trying that high line, but he may not be putting as much wheel and putting as much throttle into it. But I mean, he's just a lot slower this run in particular, so I'm unsure. I would say that is exactly what he's doing. Is just trying something a little different, maybe saving those tires a little bit, and in particular just really kind of settling, because right now he's not pushing it, and I think that's really important. He's in kind of an area of his own. He's got Shelton about 7/10 in front of him, Bolton about 4/10, and they're not really going at it. They're just kind of running their own thing at this point.
So that gap rate has balanced out at that 7/10 of a second difference. It is a gamble, though, to save a little bit more. The way that you typically expect these races to go is yellows early, while people kind of filter through to where they quote-unquote deserve to run as far as what kind of speed that car has in a longer run. And then it's this middle portion of the race where you expect things to go green for a little bit. Maybe that's the idea behind saving. If you get a yellow and we don't get to that very long run or all the way to green flag pit stops, as long as you're not losing spots, it's no real big deal. So you know, if you're the ninth to Leahy, it doesn't matter if you fall back 7/10 or 1.1 seconds back to Bolton. If you're maintaining P2 and we don't get to that point at which you want to get to when you want this long-run strategy to work out, there is really no net loss nor net gain. So the gap between 1-2 stays at 7/10. Gap between 1-3 is still at 1.1, so things balancing out, at least inside of the top 5. Still a lot of fun, though, right around P10. Jeremy Davis, Michael Guest, Nathan Lyon going at it, 10, 11, 12. That battle's been ongoing for a couple of laps. Nobody's gotten around each other yet, but they are all squished in about 2/10 apart from each other.
Yeah, Jeremy Davis, he's in the middle of that, and we see a lot of good fights here. You know, Jarl Tien also, we saw him do really good things last year. I think he was in the top 10 at the end of last year. But look at that number 28 and 10 of Stephen Wilson and Jacob Harbert. They're still doing battle. 28 of Chad Lawton trying to get the position on the bottom side here. And, you know, I said that 10 looked really good earlier, and looks like he's kind of hit a wall with these really fast drivers here. And, you know, these drivers are going 2x2 every once in a while, but there's a big pack at the very tail of this field. There appears to be about 6, 7, 8 drivers, and they're all around the 20th position. I know we don't get to talk about that much, but there's a big pack right here.
Everybody's squished together. Also some big movers. How about Tyler Hudson? Somebody who haven't talked all that much about tonight, plus 22 spots after starting him into back in 26th position. He's up to 4th right now. It's a very familiar name if you follow iRacing, even just casually. A winner at both the pro and the peak side of things. The driver of the 22 machine enjoying this one up to 4th at the moment. He's fighting with Casey Kerwin, who he just dethroned for that spot not all that long ago. And kind of waiting on pit stops now. We're past the halfway point in this race and kind of past the halfway point in this run if we are to get to that point. Just kind of a waiting game. Nobody wants to pull the trigger first, but we have a fight for second. Here we go. Justin Bolton to the inside, and it was quick. Got the nose on the bottom of Leahy, took the spot just like that. A new P2 and P3.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what we kind of expected. You know, I think the 19, even though he's giving it a little bit easier, it's just been something that I think has been looming, you know, into the 9's really fast in these long runs. And looking at his lap times, he's right there with Nicholas Shelton, if not just a tad bit faster, just a little bit. Not enough to catch him right away, but this is a long run. We'd be able to see something as we're just over the halfway point.
Just scrolling through, the likes of Tien have kind of balanced out in this. They haven't talked a whole lot about your pole sitter as he finds himself in 9th position, very quietly, I would say. But this big Hornet's Nest just outside of the top 10 ranges on Kevin King. Next driver up at the inside of Lyon. King and Lyon, both drivers who started outside of the top 23 and have picked up a significant amount of positions just in front of them. Michael Guest trying to get away and get in front of all of it, but if you lose one spot, you're kind of set up to lose a bunch, because that 31 now, top side, just got passed up by King. Now you got the 34 of Adam Benefield right there. Then you got the one of Garrett Lowe right there, Brad Mahar right there, and that goes on and on and on. So if you lose one spot, you can lose a handful, which is why I think that 31 might have to kind of put that conservation attitude out of the window, out of his head, and just trying to go for it, get a spot aligned before he really starts to get freight trained. And Davis in the same boat as he also finds himself stuck upside on the 15.
I will say, though, that he has come up quite a bit. He's 27th to 13th right now, and I'm possibly on this last run, he's really pushed it and kind of knows the game he's playing. But yeah, like you said, he may be pushing right now, or he may need to push a little harder to get past these guys. I know once you get into a pickle, or maybe he likes the bottom side a lot more, and that's what his inside is. He has gone down to the bottom to pass, it looks like, the number 30 machine of Jeremy B. Davis, who's kind of come crawling back just a little bit as well.
As we've crossed the halfway point in tonight's race, let's take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. And in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is your one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Global Rallycross, and more. At lap number 9, 92, Nicholas Shelton is your race leader, 1.4 seconds in front of Justin Bolton, who runs P2. Keegan Leahy's third, with Casey Kerwin and Tyler Hudson in the top 5. Chad Lawton runs into P6 at the moment. Jacob Harperts is scored in 7th. Stephen Wilson is 8th. Kevin King just now jumping up to 9th, which puts Bolster Jarl Tien back to 10th.
Adam Benefield's having himself a good day, as well as Michael Gessler, 11th and 12th. And you have Nathan Lyon in the 13th position. Garrett Lowe is in 14th. Brad Mahar, he is in 15th. Jeremy B. Davis, he is going to be in the 16th position. Colton Davis, he's in the 17th position. And Patrick Mallet, Michael Gariglia, and Shane Cook, they are in the 18th, 19th, and 20th position.
Jesse Schwartz, 11 seconds back, is 21st. Tyler Laughlin, exactly where he started in 22nd. Top 10 runners, though, Robbie Frable Jr., Blade Whittup dropped back. They're 23rd and 24th, respectively, with Benjamin Nelson rounding out the top 5. Jake Nichols is 26th at the moment. Alex Bergeron from the back to 27th. He's plus 14 spots as they run right now. Seth the Merchant is 28th, with Ryan Kuhn in 29th, and Braden Boulos in 30th.
And in the 31st position is Dallas Pataska, and then 32nd is going, they're switching around here in the back of the pack, so actually right now is going to be 31st Braden Boulos, then Dallas Petrarca 32nd. Nicholas Doucette, he is in the 33rd position. James Millbachler, he is going to be in the 35th, 4th position. 35th is Connor Blaze. 36th is Dave Washington after having that pit road issue earlier than Michael J. Johnson. He is in 37th. Ryan Doucette, he's 38th. 39th is Nigel DeJong. And then 40th and 41st, the last two drivers they're out of this race, is James Curl and PJ Sturgis.
That's a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com and sign up today. For a limited time, you can still log on to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of some exclusive promo codes. You can get yourself a 1-year iRacing membership for over 50% off the sticker price, or if you just want to give the sim a try, you can get a 3-month subscription for less than $5. That offer is valid to the rest of 2017. It's just in time for Dirt or Rallycross that's coming soon. Again, that's at iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. Those offers are valid on new iRacing memberships only. So just like that, we go from talking about 67 down, 100 to go, to nearly 100 down, 67 to go. As we've crossed the halfway point, we start to count down towards the end of this race on the longest green flag run, Austin Coupe, that we've seen all night long. Pit stops just on the horizon, and some drivers already dropping out with the RLT and hitting the pits.
Yeah, he's coming down pit road to get fresh tires, fuel. I don't think this is going to be the last stop. I'm sure they will have won about 30 to 34 laps into this one. I know the guys on the other side of the desk, they will say they'll confirm or deny that, but he's going to go out of the pit road very quickly. You can see how quickly he's able to get through. Oh, big wreck. Oh, my goodness. Oh, huge wreck on the front straightaway.
Well, I was just about to pose the question to our analysts, what's the risk about pitting early if you get caught out on a yellow? Is that risk worth the reward? And we have big issues with the 7 machine of, I believe that was Seth the Merchant. He got pinched up on the outside of the racetrack by the 40. That car got all kinds of sideways. He could not hang on, and he came down, just touched the 11 machine, and DeMerchant then got hit by the 25. I believe he might have got a piece of the 41, and it was the spinning Bulos 11 machine who also tagged a couple of other cars, and it is a mess down in turn number 1, and that kind of puts a pause on all the strategy we were awaiting. And for those who had already pitted, they now fall a lap down. Tien going from the top 10 to 36th position just by that timing.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most. That's probably one of the worst situations you can be in if you're coming down pit road and not in the accident. Those guys, of course, just absolutely done. DeMerchant is. There's no way he's going to be able to come back on the track with the way that thing pirouetted and Beybladed on the straightaway. But for those guys who came down early, it's going to be hard because they're going to have to come behind the pace car here as these guys are coming down pit road now, and then they're going to have to take the wave and be at the very tail of it. So it's going to be a hard night for those guys. At this point right now.
And I don't really see this affecting strategy too much if you were not one of those drivers caught out, as we see everybody come down to the pit lane. The 2 is Shelton leads everybody down. He's got the number 5 pit stall once again. Had a couple of issues winning the race off of the pit road early, but since then has been perfect on the last 2 trips. No doubt the call is going to be for tires and fuel, and the 2 wins the race off at pit road. And to our analysts, Nolan and Chris, first you, Nolan, I guess, we were expecting everybody to pit already, so does this yellow affect the strategy all that much?
No, they're still going to stay on the baseline strategy. It's a bit of a shame for Jarl. It looks like Jarl is going to be the only guy that's really going to get caught out here. He came a little short. I wasn't surprised by that, coming a little short. Maybe did it just obviously 1 corner too soon. But he's going to lose that. He's going to get his lap back, obviously. But no, in terms of strategy, we're going to stay basically streamlined here. So we're going to see about another 32, 33 lap run here. Another green flag pit stop if we stay green, and then they're going to come home to the finish.
And that goes into right what I was about to say. This was about when they were going to pit, Evan. I saw, or at least heard, a few drivers on the radio say that they were going to come down this time, and then as soon as that yellow flag came out, you just heard, well, never mind. As for the 19, Keegan Leahy, he really had a hiccup on pit road. We've seen Jarl Tien drive through his box a little bit, but that time of Keegan Leahy drove through his box too and dropped a whole host of positions all the way back down to the 6th place position there, guys.
That's how the pit stops are going to affect everything, but again, the numbers still line up pretty good to put us basically on a par for 1 more stop to the end. As we pace, we'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back to the Texas Motor Speedway, more Pro Series action. You're watching LSR TV's coverage of the 2017-18 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series on iRacing Live. Welcome back live to the Texas Motor Speedway. You're watching LSR TV's coverage of the 2017-18 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series on iRacing Live. Green flag back out from the Great American Speedway. 103 laps complete. And if the strategy agrees with it, 1 trip down to the pit lane from the end of this season opener as we get back underway, just as it was when we stepped aside at the yellow. Nicholas Shelton leads through turns number 1 and 2. Fight going to be for P2. Kerwin's been there on the doorstep for some time, but the door is now wide open with Leahy dropping it back to 6th. And it looks like the 3 of Kerwin going to get it over Bolton.
He's going to get it over both of them, but Tyler Hudson is absolutely coming as well. He's got a full head of steam on this restart. He's going to be clear of number 9 right there on that restart. And tell you what, that number 22 machine looks really, really quick right now, and I'd be surprised if he's not going to make a bid for these guys up front. In particular, Casey Kerwin, he has that long run speed, and I'm just curious to see if he can hang with Nicholas Shelton on this restart. But right now, those first 2 have a pretty good jump. I'm sure Nicholas Shelton's probably going to get a pretty good jump right now, as well as the long run goes on. But right now, not the case.
We tried to hit the reset button after what was the longest green flag run of the night, was just kind of getting into the mood of things for it to go to green flag pit stops. We saw Jarl Tien, who has had a rough go at it tonight, missed his pit stop a couple of times and dropped off for the race lead in this, and after starting on pole, fell back to 10th. Pitted, yellow flag came out immediately afterward. He stayed out to get back to the lead lap, but he is back in 30th position and does not have a lot of time to get spots back next time by. 60 laps to go in this race. Meanwhile, Keegan Leahy trying to make up for a bad exchange on pit road. Fell from second down to P6. Is back up to third already. The move on Tyler Hudson.
I'm not surprised. He's got that short run speed that he's able to do, and that should put him in the third position. Now what he's got to do, since he's got that positioning now, is to definitely hold back just a tiny bit and conserve just for a little bit, I'd say. But I'd say he's in a good position to kind of let the battle in front of him happen, maybe. It looks like Casey Kerwin is not really letting go of the distance between himself and Shelton right now. 19 took a little bit for the 19 to get around these guys behind him. Right now he's about 8/10 already off the lead right now. And with these front two guys, it looks like maybe there is going to be some separation between them now, about a 10th and a half, yeah. So Nicholas Shelton will start the long stretch of the lead already, but only a couple laps in, and we're already seeing this lead just 1 second in front of the first three guys.
We see that obviously the spacing up front continues to be a factor tonight. Thought we were going to see a fight for fifth just out of the backside of the camera shots there. It was the white number 22 of Tyler Hudson, who lost a couple of spots to Leahy and Bolton since we went back green to fall now right down to P5. Jacob Harberts' 21 Chevrolet challenging him to the inside. It did not happen, so they remain fourth, fifth, and sixth for Bolton, Hudson, and Harberts respectively as they run at the time being. But we've kind of gotten to the point now where we've run green flag laps. We've had a couple of exchanges of shorter runs, longer runs, and we have a fairly good idea of who the fast cars are, but that 3 is still the unknown to me. He's been third for the better part of this thing. It's exactly where he started, and it's the number on the roof of his Ford Fusion, but he's been behind Leahy for the better part of this. Will this past trip down to pit road and his get it around the 19 is going to do something with that? 6/10 in front of Leahy at the moment. Is Leahy going to catch him, get back to P2, or is this where the 3 finds that little bit extra?
I say it's going to take a little bit, as we've seen him do in the past, but even when he does start to kind of get that car rolling, I think Chris said it earlier, actually, we're going to have to put the hold on this one because there's going to be a wreck somewhere, a spin out. Yep, we got a few blown motors and a car around on the front straightaway.
The yellow flag going to fly again. It's issues on the front straightaway. And we were just kind of talking before we were getting the cameras back there on the fact that he was going to have to really work to get himself through this grid and from all the way to the back to the front. And it's always treacherous working through traffic, and there's a lot of damage on the 18.
Actually happened right in front of him on turn number 4. It looks like it might have been Dallas Protaska. Actually looked like it's behind him. It looked like it involved the number 3 or number 8 of Tyler Laughlin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he and the 10 got together, of course, and then it just kind of collected a lot of drivers as it was. Just a little bit of chaos right there. It was hard to exactly say, but it's just been turn 4 tonight, and I've just been getting these guys, and I guess we can throw it to Nolan and Chris to just explain what exactly is going on here in turn number 4, because it's just, we saw this last season too. I mean, this has just been a problem side, and this just seems that if these guys are going to have any kind of issues, it's going to be there.
Yeah, it really is, and it's kind of flip side from what we've seen last season there, Nolan, because in last season we saw turn 2 being this trouble spot as we see Shelton leading them down pit road, but now coming off of that bump and getting on to that front stretch into turn 4, out of turn 4, just kind of becomes the trouble spot. People trying to get too much, cars going to get upset coming out of there, especially the higher up you are, so you just got to be watching out and be wary of all your drivers around you.
I'm a bit surprised to see we're having so many issues out of 4. I mean, we all expected to have issues out of 2, and I think what happens when you test for these events, you have that in your mindset. 2's the tough corner. 2's going to be the one that's difficult, so you practice it, and then what happens? You get in the race, and then you mess up in 4. So it's a bit surprising. Honestly, that was just A misjudgment by Laughlin there. I guess he didn't get the spotter call. He just kind of came up into the car on the outside. It blew his motor, unfortunately, so there's no walking on water tonight. But unfortunately, it's going to be a night over for him, I'm afraid. And yeah, once again, just really surprised with the issues we're having out of 4. We should expect this out of 2, but I just think it goes back to the way you test. I think you just relentlessly hammer down turn 2, and then you get in the race. And what happens, we've got this wonderful dynamic track that iRacing's developed, and you're just not used to the way the track adjusts, and 4 has in some way become the issue to our surprise.
The drivers in and out of the pit lane once more, and it jumbles up the strategy a tad bit, still not within range to be able to make it to tonight's 167 lap distance realistically. We're talking about what kind of tires you need on this thing, but it does give a little bit more of a variance. It's not as clear cut, 30 in and then 30 out. You could mix it up a bit if it is to go green to the end, but as a point I made right when we started to work on that long green flag run right before the yellow after halfway before the pit stops was that races tend to have yellows early, green flag in the middle, and then yellows late. It's just how these things work, and I'm curious and kind of thinking to myself if where we sit right now, just a tad bit over 50 laps away for the end of this thing, if we're at that point already where the yellows will breed yellows and it is going to be a night full of, heart-pounding restarts and stops and short runs to determine this thing, or if we're not quite at that point yet. We've had an opportunity to say hi to our friends at Joe Real Timing and as well at iRacing. In addition, though, to tonight's broadcast at LSR TV, want to give a shout out to our friends at iNEX Racing for bringing coverage of this NASCAR iRacing Pro Series to everybody via their Twitch channel, and their partners at iAnalyze Racing Software, vracing.se, and SimLab. You can learn more about iNEX Racing by checking them out on Facebook and Twitter at iNEX Racing. And we said it at the top of the night, but for maybe those who are just tuning in now, there's a lot of us topside here tonight with LSR TV. Myself, Evan Pasoko, Austin Cute with you alongside with Nolan Scott and Chris Murdoch at the analyst desk. Matt Boos has been keeping us posted on everything going on down in split number 2, and then Cisco Scaramuza and Alexi Aloma keeping us on the air on both YouTube and Twitch. So thanks to everybody on the team for making this happen tonight, and we have a restart due up, far from over, with 51 laps to go.
And we have quite the interesting thing happening up at the front of this field. Jeremy B. Davis is our leader. He has led a couple laps under caution, due in part to him taking a 2-tire stop. And we really
has anyone taken 2 tonight?
No, and that is either not at the front at least. And so this is going to definitely put a dynamic on how we have this restart. Expect things to happen. I don't know what things are going to happen. It's all in these drivers' hands. But if Jeremy Davis can have a decent restart, I think we'll be fine. If he spins the tires, it's going to be a little bit of a well, imagination's going to come to mind. But I think we'll be fine with only one driver taking it. But it is going to be a little bit dicey on this restart here, Evan.
You could look at it 2 ways. He was running in 12th at the moment of yellow. It's a big gamble for him because if this doesn't work out, he could fall much further behind 12th. If it does work out, though, he's not a car from outside of the 30s. He has a lot of speed in the Caterpillar Chevrolet as we go green and back at it. This fight for second, though, could be critical because Shelton finds himself on the outside of the front row and falling to third in contact with the 19. Shelton up and way out of the groove. Caution flag going to save him as there's problems behind.
Big wreck in turn number 2. Multiple cars involved. I can't even say a bunch of names because there's so many drivers. I can start listing off just a few to start with. The 39 of Benjamin Nelson appears to be done. The 24 of, it looks like Pataska again. Nicholas Doucette, Ryan Kuhn, and just a lot of drivers involved in this one. We'll get a replay of what exactly happened.
And the issues came, we were kind of expecting something like that to happen, but they didn't come from where I thought. It looked like the 1 and the 16 didn't quite agree on who deserved the spot on the inside of the racetrack. That was a checkup, then the 38 checked up, then the 35 checked up, and as you said, it was Nelson, the first car to go around, and there's just nowhere for those cars to go. Finally, Calamity Corner turn 2 claims some victims, and it's at least a dozen cars who get torn up. Anytime you get a piece of contact like that, both on the outside and the inside of the racetrack at the same time, especially 7 seconds removed from a restart, there's just no space for the cars behind that to get away, and It was the kind of checkup you would expect to see on the front stretch coming to the green. Instead, it happened in the center of the quarter as everybody was getting through the gears and back up to speed, and it was not pretty for everybody mid-pack.
No, I think we have a couple blown motors after this one, but like you said, about a half dozen to a dozen, or to 10 cars really, at least some bit of damage if they didn't already have some already. Even just some rear ending on some of these guys is going to be a big dampener on this one. And to top it all off, the driver who we thought was the strongest at this point does get it saved by this one, but still had a little bit of an issue between himself and Keegan Leahy. I think Nolan had said something earlier about those guys going to toe-to-toe. I don't know if he meant that, but that definitely was contact that occurred. And so between those two, I think that'll be an interesting point to make here, Nolan.
Well, when I said they'd go toe-to-toe, I mean, that definitely wasn't off the playbook. But what's interesting right now is we have a really interesting situation regarding fuel strategy. We had a situation where maybe we would have a 52-lap run there. So you had some guys come down the pit stop before. They might have short-fueled their car. Now we're in a situation where they almost have to stay out for track position. And when we go green here, we're going to have about 47 laps left, maybe give or take a few. So this is going to be an extremely long run if you want to make it to the end. So these guys, if it does go green, are going to be on some wild tire situations at the end of the race. And there's some guys out here who may decide to keep their track position because they're expecting caution and not have enough fuel to make it to the end. So right now, this to me is the most important part of the entire race from the spotter's perspective. What do you do? Are you short fueled? Do you bring them in? Do you lose the track position? In my opinion, if it does go green, I'd like to stay out to the end. I'll take the chance. I'll go the 47. And if that does happen, that's a long time to go on a set of tires at Texas, and it's going to be wet and wild.
It is, and we were really judging that before the race here, Nolan, and seeing how far drivers would push it. And we got a few drivers up here that have really good long-run cars. Casey Kerwin, Justin Bolton, that dropped Nicholas Shelton way far back, all the way to 7th. So we'll have to see if he can rebound, fight through all these tough drivers and get back up there. But it's definitely going to wear those tires down. So these top 5 drivers that we have right now, that's who I'm looking for towards the end of this race.
And as we're at a slow pace here in split number 1, we'll head back to Matt Boosabat for an update on what's going on down in split 2.
Yeah, Evan, for as much chaos as we had early on in the race, it's been very clean the last 100 laps or so, only 1 caution in that period. We're having green flag pit stops right now, and Brian Blackford has just exited the pits as the leader. And we're looking at a bit of a shake-up in the pits as there was a caution in the middle of our previous green flag stops. Mitchell Hunt seems to have the best car of the night. He is still trying to make his way back to the front. But currently we have Randall Fox as your leader, followed by Malik Ray, David Rattler, Gorlinski, and Brian Blackford making up the top 5. One interesting point is we only have about 22 cars on track after all the chaos in the beginning of the race.
We expect the checkers to fly in that one before this one, so if anything else late breaking happens in that, we'll have Mr. Babusa bring it to us, but we'll probably have a winner for you in that one to update you on it before we see the checkers here in split 1, because we've still got just under 50 laps to go in this thing. The good news, Coop lights out on top of the pace car. We get set to do it again. Jeremy Davis, I guess every time we get a yellow on this point till everybody else decides to pit together is kind of negating the disadvantage that he has. He'll be the inside of the front row. The 3 of Kerwin is up in P2. Keep an eye on Leahy, though, really wanting to get P2 here. If he could do it on the 3, that would be big for him.
Yeah, I would expect big things out of these guys in the front. And I said the last restart would be interesting, but it wasn't where I thought it would be. But I think Leahy is going to be in a really good position on this restart as they get the green flag. Jeremy Davis does get a good restart here, but the 3 gets equally a good eye on it. In that 9 machine of Justin Bolton, he has also got himself a good restart on the outside, and he's going to go toe-to-toe with Keegan Leahy right now.
The critical position, I guess, defensive move. It wasn't really a pass to maintain P2 as Kerwin slotted down, and the fight is going to be on for 3rd. The 9 of Bolton topside actually had a nose in front at the start-finish line, but again, the inside so far tonight has shown to be the place to be on these restarts, and it looks like Leahy is going to have that positioned. Not sure if the 22 of Tyler Hutz is necessarily trying to help him, but a little bit of a push that time all the way from turn 4 to 1 gave the 19 Chevy a little bit of added incentive, and he will clear for third. And out the 22, Hudson trying to get up into fourth position. In front of them, though, Kerwin is all over the back of Jeremy B. Davis. Again, that Caterpillar entry only had to defend the race lead for 7 seconds before those big issues in turn 2. And with the 19 now pressing for second, Kerwin's going to have to make a move.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching him have an issue getting around Davis right now. It's just trying to get around him is becoming the difficult part. And here comes the 19. He's actually going to go to the top side. Kerwin's going to go to the bottom. So they're going to go side by side, but they still have to get around this 30 somehow. And they've been having issues. Lap car at the very top of the screen, right, or at the top of the racetrack right here at turn number 4. Not going to be an issue, looks like. But this 30 machine is actually doing a really good job of keeping these guys behind him, just running kind of the safe, low line as you would expect. But these guys aren't able to go to the top and aren't able to get the runs off the corners that you'd expect. The 30's trying it right now here going into 1, but the 30's going to block him. He going into turn number 3. He actually blocked him going there.
And that, I thought, might have hurt Kerwin because he had to check up, but I thought that maybe Leahy was going to sweep in. Looks like things are going to be okay. And fight for second, that number 3 Ford maintains where he runs at the moment, but it definitely has shorted things up between the 3 and the 19. Now here comes Kerwin again to the bumper, same time as last time, but he has a nose on the inside, and we will go side by side for the race lead at lap number 126, and the 3 of Casey Kerwin's got it from Jeremy B. Davis, Nolan, who falls to P2 and now has to deal with Leahy behind him.
Jeremy B. Davis put himself in that situation with a two-tire strategy. He had to have a caution. What happened? He got it too soon. Now he has to maintain that position, so I'm not surprised to see him throw the block. Jeremy B. Davis has got a lot of talent. He's not necessarily the most well-known driver out there, but he's really, really talented, and I think he's going to make a name for himself this season. But it's imperative right now to maintain as much track position as he can. And here we say that with the two-tire strategy call, he's actually really competitive in terms of it.
In fact, right when he made the pass for the race lead, instead of the 19 getting up on him, he actually made a run back at Kerwin. Wasn't able to do anything with it, but put up a valiant effort. Lap traffic, top side of the racetrack. That is the heavily damaged number 8 of Tyler Laughlin, who now falls 5 laps down. He, along with Nathan Lyon, Alex Bergeron, Dallas Pataska, and I think that is it as far as drivers who are off of the lead lap that are still on track. Recent drivers to park it and end their night: Jarl Tied, Seth the Merchant, James Milwaukler, and Nigel DeYoung are some drivers who are out of this race early on. Since we really last checked in at that halfway point, I think all of those drivers being caught up in the big wreck in turn number 2. Just kind of waiting for the 19 and the 30 to go at it, still fighting inside of the top 10. How about Chad Lawton, the number 28 machine? He and the 21 fighting in front of them. Justin Bolton in the 22 and Tyler Hudson. No shortage of action inside of the top 7, and those top 7 are all still within a second here, race leaders.
Yeah, so they're going side by side out of the corner. Looks like the 28's trying to get the underside, not really working in Hudson. He's trying to go back to the bottom, but thinks better of it. That 9 Bolton, as we talked about earlier, he's been really good on those long runs. Right now, what he's looking for is probably a long run, but I think Nolan said it earlier, it's really not going to be that easy to make it on this long run with those tires. So you've got to be at least a little bit conservative. It continues to go the distance. Do you want to mention that the 30 of Davis, I think his tires are going to start falling off here fairly shortly because Keegan Leahy just got around him. The 9 car is going to be right there here pretty soon. I think those left sides are going to start really screaming as you hear soon as you can see these guys really start to approach.
Leahy has been able to make that move for second, so Jeremy Davis follows to third. He now under attack by the 9 of Justin Bolton. Again, do we expect this to happen the way the green flag runs work out? If he doesn't fall lower than 12th, though, not entirely a loss. There's a side-by-side fight, though, catching up on him. So either that battle between Hudson and Lawton's going to have to be decided before they get there, or they're going to have to go 3 wide, and dependent on where that 30 is, we could end up with one driver going up top, one driver going down low, or somebody getting boxed out if you maybe use that slower car in front as a pick, although Davis kind of has his land legs back under him, picked up a little bit after dropping both to Leahy and Bolton in a span of 2 laps apiece. So now that the 19 to Keegan Leahy's got to second, though, we keep watching these fights inside of the top 5, but you got to keep an eye on the interval now. He needs to, I think, get back to where he was. Kerwin is P2 because of how this worked. When Jeremy Davis stayed out It put race leader Leahy on the outside of the front row, then gave Kerwin the inside of row number 2. That's how they ended up switching out positions. Before that, the 19 had that little bit more than the 3 consistently all night long. Now that Leahy has been able to get the P2, the question was, can he get the Kerwin? It's not looking good. Justin Bolton, with the move that time down the back, puts the 9 into second. Can he show up late and sneak into this one, steal it inside of 40 to go?
Yeah, I think that 9 car is really one to watch here, continuing to go forward here, Nolan, as they were actually going 3 wide here for that top 5 position. I don't think that's going to be the end of this one for sure, as these guys go 2 wide behind the number 30, Jeremy Davis. I expect these guys to make things happen here, probably in this next couple of laps here. Not entirely sure, but they were 3 wide for just a hair of a moment in turn number 4 just a little bit ago.
That's true. We've talked a lot. We've talked a lot about a lot of different guys. One guy we haven't talked about is Jacob Harberts, and he's right there. He's right in position, right behind Jeremy B. Davis, and it's getting spicy right here because these guys are getting extremely impatient behind that number 30 car, and it's time to go. They have to go right now. They have to make the move stick, and they're stuck side by side. They can't get around the 30 car, and somebody, in my opinion, is going to get impatient, and it's about to happen in the next few laps. I'm super impressed with that 30 car, Jeremy B. Davis, to be able to hold these guys off, but it's just a matter of time, in my opinion. As I say that, he pulls up Keegan. Keegan has a big moment there in 3 and 4, but he recovers, and he's able to keep going. But this is going to get spicy right here because somebody is going to have to make the move, and right now everybody's playing nice. But eventually there's going to come a time when it's not time to play.
We talk about separation. Not only is the top 7 drivers still within a second-year race leader, but this pack right here, Leahy in 3rd. Right now, the number 19 machine, that bright yellow car at the front of this pack, and the side-by-side between Harberts and Lawton in 6 and 7. That's only 0.3 of a second to separate 5 and now 6 drivers. If you want to toss Nicholas Shelton back into this mix, only 4 of the drivers who run top 10 right now started inside of the top 10. So a lot of these guys have worked all race long to get to this point and are hungry for that little bit extra. Davis trying to defend and does, holding off Tyler Hudson topside with a great run out of turn 4. But guys, the race lead, it is on. Justin Bolton has been a top 5 car all night. Now though, showing that late race magic, has closed in a 0.6 of a second gap and now traces the back bumper of race leader Casey Kerwin inside of 30 laps to go.
Yeah, he's been hounding in the last few laps as they go 3 wide behind him, but Bolton has got good positioning on him. He's going to go to the bottom of the track, and he's going to be side by side with him for the race lead, and I think he's going to very much get this position. I think Kerwin really doesn't have a choice right now. He got him right there in turn number 1, is going to be able to slide right in front, and the 3 is going to go back to work and slide right behind him and just try and see what he can do to try and make sure those guys behind him don't get him. However, looks like they've actually kind of sorted themselves out. Actually, not quite. They look to go 3 wide here. Still in turn number 4. I just don't think that they can get around the 30 of Davis. I mean, he's doing an absolutely good job of making sure that these guys don't get around him. Oh, and by the way, he's actually kind of catching Leahy right here in 3rd position.
And the 3 wide's good because nobody wants to give anything up to each other, but you're only hurting yourself and you're costing time to the race leader, which is now Justin Bolton at lap number 140. I think it's the first time tonight that number 9 Chevrolet has been in front. Chris, maybe his moving to the front at 27 laps to go going to be the race-winning move.
Well, and it's not like we haven't seen him be up at the front before. We've seen shades of brilliance from that 9 machine just trying to get that long run speed. He now has that long run speed, and we see him just open up the gap on Casey Kerwin to about 0.4 and still going. Keegan Leahy still struggling on those long run speeds. He's got a whole swarm of drivers just behind him, but Justin Bolton definitely the long run winner here tonight.
Tight call with lap traffic there. The 24 machine right up in front of the race leader, Justin Bolton. That's the 24 of Pataska. Somebody who I had noted is now 12 laps down and continuing to just try to run this race out, get whatever points are available as the gap between first and second is growing. You expect to see that unless, Kerwin either finds some late run speed, but I would assume if he's got something extra in the tank, now would be the time to show it because I believe, Coop, at 143 of 167, we are not clear on fuel yet to the end. At least tire strategy, I should say, based on the numbers we've been seeing tonight.
I'd say that we'd probably be all right if they... I don't have the calculator in front of me, but if these guys were worried about fuel, I'd say that we'd probably get some takers already to try and split that in half and try and get the most benefit of your tires and come down, maybe get 2 tires. But just really looking at these guys up front and seeing that the 30 kind of got boxed out there just a little bit ago. But really just kind of looking at this, these top guys right here, just and watching the 22 just barely hold on to the car out of turn number 4 as Tyler Hudson lost the position last time to Shelton. But really just this traffic right here in particular is starting to put a damper on some of these battles that are side by side. These side by side battles are so hard in these guys, and the guys behind them can't really do much. But when they get to these, that really starts to shuffle these positions around in particular.
The late race passing for the race lead going on up in split number 1, and Busa also going down with you guys with 10 to go.
Just had 10 to go here in split number 2, and Mitchell Hunt with Brian Blackford in one heck of a battle for the lead. Hunt restarted in 16th position, and without the help of a caution has found his way all the way up to the front spot. We'll see if he can hold on to it with 9 laps to go now.
Keep you posted if that changes as that one winds down. Something else that's a factor up front besides just head-to-head battles for the race lead is lap traffic, Nolan. We've been talking about it a lot in recent laps, and that's going to continue as the night goes on as it affects our race leaders.
Yes, we have. We just saw the 30. Well, we might not have caught it on stream with the 30 car, Jeremy B. Davis. We've been bragging about him all night long, especially this last run, taking those 2 tires. Just got locked in by a lap car. He's going to lose some positions. But lap traffic here is going to be huge. We've got some guys on the mic really complaining about it. Nick Morris is really upset. Tyler Laughlin and some guys are going back and forth. So things are getting spicy, as I've said once before this broadcast. But the guys are getting a little upset with each other right now. And I thought we'd see more cautions than we have. I think we'll see one more because I don't know if a lot of these guys are good on fuel. Nobody pitted. We didn't have that opportunity. Jeremy B. Davis really didn't have an opportunity to fill up. So I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know if these guys are gambling, but I'm assuming we're going to see a couple cars run out of fuel here at the end of this race. But the lap cars definitely aren't helping, and a lot of guys are getting very irritated.
This is all as this race kind of comes to a climax as the laps continue to wind down. Fighting going on not only for the top spots, which has actually settled down a little bit. Casey Kerwin still P2, but now losing time to Bolton after getting passed by him. The gap between those spots have gone to 0.8 of a second now, and it's not really like Kerwin's falling off, because if it was the 3 who is losing pace, I would expect Lawton 3rd to be picking up, Shelton 4th to be picking up, the same with Leahy, Hudson, and Harbards in 5, 6, and 7. But I think Justin Bolton's just found something here. The intervals everywhere else besides 1st and 2nd pretty even at lap 150 and 17 to go next time by.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we're under the 20 laps to go here, and Bolton's in a really good position, I'd say. He's got the lead by a good amount and really just in a position where he can do what he needs to do. I don't think he really needs to push anything, because in case one of these guys starts to, really get some speed, I mean, he's almost got himself 1 second of a lead. He's he's getting closer and closer by the lap. But I really think that that's going to be a big thing here.
Bolton just once again goes to show that experience. He's a veteran. He's an in-pass veteran. He's racing for his license. I can't believe he didn't make it in last season. He didn't compete in a lot of the races. He's obviously back, and he's making his statement. He did a fantastic job, I think, of adjusting his car. It just goes to show the experience level that he has. And at the first of the race, we were thinking, top 5 car, not too great. A couple pit stops into the run, made some adjustments, probably made some spring perch adjustments, some tire pressure adjustments, and really he's the class of the field, and it happened really in just a couple runs. So really impressed by Bolton. You really get to see that impasse experience come through right.
Still running 30 spots on the lead lap, and that means 30 positions up for grabs, but you have to think that this is going to be the run to the end. If you hold your breath long enough to see if we make it that far. Still Bolton, Kerwin, Lawton, Shelton, and Leahy, the top 5. Hudson, King, Harbards, Mahar, and Benefield round out your top 10. And Brad Mahar jumping out to be started way back in 40th. Your biggest mover tonight, passing 31 drivers to break into the top 10 like he has on the last run. And as we come within laps of 10 laps to go, boosted down in split number 2, the checkered flag is already out for the first race on the season for you guys.
Yes, the checkered flag has just waved here at Texas, and Mitchell Hunt is taking the victory over Brian Blackford in an incredible battle. They swapped the lead about 3 or 4 times in the final 10 laps, with the final move coming to getting 2 laps to go. We have Randall Fox finishing in 3rd, followed by Leo Brotherton, and random pipgrass right now at the top 5.
Over on our side of things, late drama drivers had suspected that maybe we weren't good on gas. We were talking at 60 to go. It was going to be one stop to the end. Thought maybe 50 something would change it, but drivers are on pit road. Most notably, the 9 of Justin Bolton has pitted from the race lead at lap 155.
And you just got to wonder which other drivers are going to come down pit road, and what are they going to do? Are they going to take 2, 4 tires, or none, or what's the strategy going to be? I mean, with this many laps to go, and can you make it? I mean, if you're a driver that's still out there, I mean, you're watching Bolton come right back on the track, right in front of the leader right there, and he's going to swap right back down, so he's going to be just 1 lap down behind your leader of Casey Kerwin now. But I have to say that Kerwin's probably good to make it, because if he would have realized by now he's not going to make it, I bet you he would not be at this position. Although we have seen odder things happen. It's got to come down to the wires. We're going to have 11 laps to go this time by. And Kerwin looks like he's going to be in the position if he can make it on gas the rest of the way.
That's 100% correct. We saw Bolton come down. We saw Kevin King come down. Chad J. Lawton came down. He was in a really good position to get a solid top 5. We've got a lot of guys running out of gas here. I think that's going to get rid of most of them. If you're going to run out of gas, I don't really understand necessarily going exactly to this point. I would have maybe given myself a 2-3 lap buffer, or I'd have ran it all the way out. No tires is the strategy here. You got to maintain track position, and unlike an impasse, these guys can pull right out of the pits and right onto the banking of the track, which makes it a little dangerous. But as of right now, we're still...
Yeah, just listened into the radio of that 3 machine just a little bit here, guys. Says he can make it. He's just got to... I just got to drive. Now, spotter Houston Hammer in his ear says, just hold on to it, buddy. So that 3 machine looks good to go to the end here, Evan.
Less than 10 laps to go in the season opener of this 2017-18 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series Championship, the first of 10 races to qualify yourself in to the 2018 NASCAR Peak Anniversary Series. Casey Kerwin taking over the race lead in this one late. After we saw just moments ago, drivers have to rush down pit road for gas, and that included Justin Bolton, who now runs in 23rd. It's a big difference in points between first and 23rd position, I can tell you that much. So now you hold your breath. Who can make it? Can Shelton go all the way? How about Leahy 3rd, Hudson 4th, and Harbertson 5th? Everybody is close enough to the point where we're not necessarily fighting for position actively on track, but if you got to save or if you're going to run out, there's plenty of drivers stacked up right behind you that will more than happily fill that void.
And what really stinks for the number 2 of Nicholas Shelton is that he was actively catching Casey Kerwin, not at an alarming rate, but at a good rate. But he just got passed by 2 lap cars, and my goodness, that really put a damper on his progress that he was making towards Casey. I mean, he was almost under a second behind Casey, and now that's second and a half almost. These lap cars are faster because they now have the new rubber, and they have decided that is important for them. It's really getting in the way of these guys who are slow, but they are the leaders. And so as Nicholas Shelton comes by the finish line once more, he's actually going to drop 2/10 on that lead, but a caution's going to come out and change everything. Where's it at?
5 laps to go. Do we get back under green flag conditions as the yellow flag is out? And wouldn't you hate it if you were going to be 4 laps shy on fuel and a yellow comes out with 5 to go? We have a caution in this race, and I believe it is issues with Adam Benefield. The number 34 machine was in a 3-wide gone wrong. A much quicker Garrett Lowe tried to split the gap through the middle. The slightest bit of contact hooks the 34 around. The innocent bystander in that one was the 35 machine, who also gets a good bit of front-end damage. And just like that, we hit the reset button. Maybe with enough time to get a restart. I think it will be big if we don't. The fact that we did not take the pace car on the lap of yellow, the field had to go around back to 1 and 2 and are just now collecting the pace car. So this race may not restart, but it'll be a last lap decision to find out if we get 1 lap to go or if Casey Kerwin is going to coast to a checkered flag in the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, looking back at that accident, the 34 of Adam Benefield got some serious air, but he got hit by 2 cars way after the initial contact had happened. And I think just from Benefield's standpoint, I mean, I'm sure he wanted to be done with that wreck well before that accident should have been over with. But nonetheless, we are under this caution flag, which could possibly end it. I would say that I'm thinking for the way this is looking, you cannot come down pit road if you're one of these guys. It is too risky at this point in case that does not. So they would be on lap 164. There goes one car on the pace car. So that's your lucky dog. You would assume next time you'd get your 2 to go. So I think it might be over.
And if it is, it's going to come down to, again, your race leaders at the time of yellow are headed at a turn 2, and there's some point, there's no defined line where iRacing says if the leaders are at this point, you got to check up for the pace car and pit road opens that time by, or you got to go around, and the sim sent everybody around one more time to catch up to the pace car. And if we either don't restart or if we have a 1 lap to go restart, that'll be the difference between 2 laps at it and 1 lap at it. So that could be a big factor regardless of what happens. We will let you know as soon as the drivers get a heads up before us. We really just sit and wait on the lights on top of the pace car to go out. So we are going to find out if the 2 laps to go were to come out. It would give us a 1.5 mile shootout at Texas, which is always interesting because you're really just barely getting up to speed. And I don't think a single time tonight really we've seen a challenge for the race lead on the first lap immediately off a restart. So it's quite the tall task for the likes of Shelton, Leahy, Hudson, and everybody else. You're going to have to try to guesstimate what's going on in turn 4. And if you guess correctly, you're there. And if you guess wrong, it's a mess.
Yeah, but when you're thinking about how important this first race is for a lot of drivers, some drivers will quit after this race because they will already think to themselves that they are extremely far behind. This is going to be a big, big restart. If you are the leader, there's going to be a lot of pressure on you. If there's those 2 guys behind you, Nicholas Shelton, who was probably in the improbable position to take advantage of it, you're going to be in the blind spot to try and get that big jump. He's got his spotter in his ear. He's got Ray Afala, so somebody who's very talented in doing what he does best, letting him know what to do, probably coaching him through what the next few things are going to be like. Then you've got the 19, who's had some bad, good, fast speed, and he just happens to be spotted by Ryan Michaeluza. So some spotters in here, some crew members of these guys that are here, definitely trying to make sure these guys are just making sure that this restart is as executed well as possible. I think that if this was one of the middle races or one of the last races, it wouldn't be so difficult, but this is the first race of the season.
And the lights go out on the pace car at 2 laps to go, so it is going to be told a 1 lap shootout next time by, 1.5 miles to decide it.
Yeah, to follow up on what you said, the adversity, I don't want to turn all Dale Jarrett on everybody, but you got to stay in it at this point. I mean, I know a lot of guys are going to give up, but importantly right now, and it's going to be hard for us to follow, we got a lot of guys at the back of this field on fresh tires. We got Nichols, Witt, Laughlin, Frabel, Nelson, Bolton, all these guys on 4 fresh tires, and everybody in front of them is on really, really old slicks. So it's going to be dangerous in the back, and we have to race back to the line here. So you know what, we'll try to cover those guys as best we can. We've got to watch the front pack obviously, but Justin Bolton's sitting back in 19th position. He can make up a lot of positions on this
and this is going to be the restart to determine it. It doesn't matter that this race has gone on for the better part of 247, now 248 miles. All that matters is that it is going to be a 1 lap shootout from the Texas Motor Speedway. Casey Kerwin and Nicholas Shelton side by side on the front row, with Keegan Leahy and Tyler Hudson in row 2. Brad Mahar the top 5. Green flag flies and the 3 jumps out in front.
He's going to get a jump, but the 19 loses it. Will spin on the very beginning. Ooh, terrible start for him. He's going to wreck a bunch of cars. But it's the lead that we need to look at. 19 wrecks a bunch of cars here at the finish line. But Casey Kerwin, Nicholas Shelton, and company behind them are still fighting for position, Evan.
We'll take a second look at the chaos mid-pack, but it doesn't matter. We stay green to the end of this in, and it's a green number 2 of Shelton trying to dig in 3 and 4, but he's going to come up short, and Casey Kerwin survives the one-lap shootout, checkered flag, and your winner from Texas.
And it looks like the 38 still has not made it to the start-finish line. That's Colton Davis, so he just now hit the start-finish line. There was a big wreck. We'll have to get a second look at that, but big win for the number 3 of Casey Kerwin, who, if it was a 2-lap shootout, unsure of how that would have worked out for him, as there were some really hungry drivers, but really good for him to get the big jump on the restart. I mean, he absolutely, once that pace car was gone, he was gone, and I think that was probably the best restart he could have had, Chris.
Well, we knew that the folks were going to be digging back on row 2 and thought it was going to be the wheel spin that took him out of it, but it was Leahy who just got those left side tires on the grass, got sideways, and at that point ended up in 2 pieces of grass and got up into the 11, and it was a mess down in turn 1, but because the white flag was out, nothing will come from that as far as the race up front staying green to the end. And Casey Kerwin, I know, had a lot of jitters there going into that last restart, Chris, but he's able to hang on for the win in the Pro Series opener.
Yeah, and if you want an interesting little fact about Texas Motor Speedway here on iRacing, who was that driver that won NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series here at Texas? His teammate, Alan Bowes. So that's a dead zone sweep in Pro and Peak this year, guys.
The 3 machine with some celebrating to do as he burns it down on the front straightaway here at the Texas Motor Speedway. Casey Kerwin is your winner in round 1 of the 2017-18 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. We'll take this opportunity to step aside for a brief moment, and when we come back, we'll take a look at our full race results, try to get some words from drivers post-race, and look forward to the next race on the calendar in 1 week's time from Avondale, Arizona, and the Phoenix International Raceway. You're watching the 2017-2018 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series at LSR TV, your home for sim racing.
Logan lit it up coming off of pit road. He's going to start on the inside of Brian Luza.
for the LSR TV post-race show following the season opener of the 2017-2018 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. Happy that you're still with us at LSR TV and iRacing Live. Casey Kerwin is your race winner, and we'll try to get a word with him down at Victory Lane momentarily. First, as always, we look topside following tonight's 167-lap affair at your LSR TV full race results. Casey Kerwin gets the checkered flag, survives a 1.5-mile shootout at the end, winning this race after starting in third position over top of Nicholas Shelton, who comes home P2. Tyler Hudson assumes third after a big wreck on the last lap that caused a lot of problems for guys who ran up front for the better part of the night. It puts Hudson third. Jacob Harbert's in fourth, and Brad Mahar, biggest mover, at plus 35 positions to round out your top five. Just behind him, Kane Cook's on home in 26th position. Another great night for the likes of Michael Gass, 39th to 7th to get a top 10 finish in this one. Stephen Wilstead comes home at 8th with Patrick Mallet in 9th and Jeremy B. Davis to round out your top 10.
Finishing 11th is Ryan Kuhn, and Garrett Lowe finished in the 12th position. Colton Davis finished 13th. Kevin King from 24th to 14th, up 10. And then you've got Benjamin Nelson. He'll finish in the 15th position. 16th finishes Chad Lawton. Robbie Vrabel Jr. finishes in the 17th position. Blade Witt finishes 18th. 19th finishes Connor Blaze. And the first car lap down, Keegan Leahy did not make it to the flag stand that last lap, so he'll be scored one lap down.
And also a lap down, including 20th all the way through 25th position, is 21st. Braden Bulos with Jake Nichols 22nd, Justin Bolton 23rd, Michael J. Johnson 24th, and Jesse Schwartz in 25th. 2 laps down, P26 to David Washington, 3 laps down to P27 Nick Morse, 8 laps down, 28th Alex Bergeron, and 29th is Michael Garaglia with Nathan Lyon in 30th, both those two -5.
Adam Benefield would finish today 31st. Nicholas Doucette 32nd. 33rd would finish Tyler Laughlin. And then you've got Dallas Pataska 34th. Ryan Doucette 35th. Jarl Tien finished in the 36th position. James Milbachler, he'll finish 37th. Seth the Merchant finishes 38th. Nigel DeJong, he'll finish 39th. And then 40th and 41st, James Curl and Paige Sturgis.
Let's look top to bottom at your LSR TV full race results. How about all eyes up front to your race winner tonight for the Texas Motor Speedway? It is Casey Kerwin who takes home the checkered flag and kicks off this 17-18 campaign at Victory Lane. Casey, you got us?
Yeah, man.
Hey, congratulations on the win. You guys had a fast car all night long. There was no doubt about that. You started up top 3, but for a lot of this night, you found yourself just 1 or 2 positions out of this thing, either, stuck behind our pole sitter up early in this thing, or Keegan Leahy up there giving you guys headaches, and then you guys find yourself up front and in the position to take it later, and you did not let that opportunity pass.
Yeah, we, Keegan and Shelton were definitely and Bolton were definitely the class of the field. They, we could compete with them in the long run, but they just got so far out in the short run. We couldn't gain it all back. And yeah, we were just riding there for a while, and then there on that last run, I guess they were underfueling their cars for a little more speed. We packed it full every single stop. We helped the car turn more, if anything. So we were good to go. We were 10 laps to the good, if not more. So just unbelievable. We were able to win first race out. Struggled a lot last year in this series. To start out with a bang like this is incredible. Just can't thank everyone at Dead Zone, Dustin Linger for the base set, Houston for adjusting on it, Bose for making the Q set, everyone just for helping, Reynolds, Ryan Lowe, all the Peak guys for helping me out all race and keeping me calm. Just can't believe it.
And I know that, at the end of the day, this thing came down to just a 1-lap shootout, but only 3 drivers who started top 10 able to finish top 10. A couple of them, caught out in incidents. A couple of them caught out in incidents there, especially on that last restart. The good news for you is being out front, all that excitement, if you want to call it that, happened behind you. But how did you guys pace yourself over the course of 250 miles to be in position late to obviously take advantage of a fast race car and get this win to open up the pro calendar?
Yeah, honestly, I knew I didn't want to get too excited being up front and burn the tires off trying to keep up with Keegan and Shelton. Just kept the tires on it and were able to stay in the top 5 all night long and be able to capitalize on an opportunity like that.
You guys get the first of 10. I know that the objective is obviously to have a run like this week in and week out, but just kind of match it up, just how you feel, because it's tough to gauge a long-term objective just off of the first race. We know what you guys want to happen, and it always helps when you start out with the right foot forward. So what's the objective next going into Phoenix in what a week?
Hopefully to win again. You know, we honestly coming into this race, I only really wanted a top 10. But you know, we were just able to get lucky there with getting around Jeremy there before anyone else, and then I just knew Shelton and Keegan got together. So hopefully the everything will align again for us the rest of the races, and hopefully we can get more good results like this.
We'll let you get out of here, but as always, Casey, the sponsors and the shout-outs, it makes it happen for you down here in Pro Series Victory Lane.
I just got to thank John Dragonetti, DragonTech.com, for the awesome paint scheme, and once again everyone at Dead Zone Racing for putting in all the hard work over the past week, and gonna go kick some butt in Phoenix next week.
We appreciate, as well, you letting our team listen into you guys at the radio over the course of the night. Chris was keeping us updated with what was going on that side. But Casey, we also appreciate you giving us the time. Post-race, congratulations on the win. Hopefully for you guys, the first of many over the course of this 17-18 campaign. And hopefully we'll have opportunities as the season goes on to chat again. So good luck, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That is your race winner tonight for the Texas Motor Speedway. It is Casey Kerwin who takes home the checkered flag, and keeping us posted on Split 2 all night was Matt Busa. Matt trackside with your winner in that second split, it's Mitchell Hunt.
Yeah, I'm standing by with Mitchell Hunt here, Split 2 winner tonight at Texas. And Mitchell, I saw in the short runs, it looked like you either didn't have the pace to keep up with the leaders, or were you just saving tires? Because on the long run, you were hauling ass.
I was definitely doing some tire management. The first run we did, found out we were pretty loose, I think the short run that we had, and after that just made some wholesome changes and kind of just stuck to the plan around the bottom the entire time, and let everyone burn their stuff out, running out on the outside, and luckily the right rear kind of held on for the long run, so it was kind of nice.
Yeah, can you talk about the final 70 or so laps when you got stuck on pit road when the caution came out? You drove from 16th to the lead. How did you manage to do that and get through traffic?
Yeah, that wasn't the best thing I was looking for. I think I was coming on a pit road right as it fell, and I was hoping I'd stay in front of the leader, but they ended up giving me the wave around for it. And I was trying to drive hard enough to where I wasn't burning out the right rear, so it would stay under me the whole entire run, and luckily that helped. I haven't done anything more than about 28 laps on that setup, and that was, especially in that weather, I had 0 laps in that weather, so it was kind of just go with whatever the car's doing, just wheel it. And I think right before the pit stops, I think it was about 3.5 seconds back on the leader, and had a good stop, and then just kind of slowly chased him down and passed him. I think a couple 8-9 laps to go, and then we just brawled.
Yeah, you definitely wheeled it here tonight in Texas. Yeah, looking forward to Phoenix?
No, not really. That's not one of my better tracks. I'm not really good there. This is definitely, I really like the grip, like the really slippery wheelman tracks like Texas, Atlanta, Las Vegas is alright, Auto Club. So those are the tracks I'm looking forward to if they're on the schedule. Not so much Phoenix.
Alright, well, good talking to you, Mitchell. Do you have anyone to thank tonight?
Yeah, I just gotta give a shout out to all the guys at Specs. Pretty much put this thing together with everybody, I think, last minute, and about basically at the last month kind of tweaking on things a little bit here and there, and Nick Morse, Jacob Herberts, Malik Ray, I mean, everyone that's on there. There's a couple new guys we got on there that helped spot and everything, and everything went good, so shout out to those guys.
Alright, well, congratulations again on your win, Mitchell. And I think now we're going to send it to Coop, who's with Jacob Harbitz, your P4 finisher in top split.
Yeah, I'm going to be catching up here with the number 21 of Jacob Harberts, who finished a slightly lucky P4 here tonight. And Jacob really didn't talk about you that much today, and I think in a way that's probably a really good thing for you, considering there's a lot of action going on in the race tonight. It looks like you started 10th and kind of were just in the top 10 all day. Tell us about how your run was and kind of how the track felt tonight for you.
Well, I knew right from the beginning I had a pretty good car. Just floating around top 5, top 10 most of the race, somewhere between there. There was a few guys in the back that didn't qualify or just kind of qualified in the back that came up, had a really good car in the race, but for the most part, we were, floating around really good, had good potential. Just it came down to that end. Luckily, as Casey mentioned earlier, he filled his car up all the way, but he knew there was other guys that didn't fill up their cars all the way. Well, I was one of those guys that didn't fill up their cars all the way, and I was not going to make it to the end, so I had the choice of just go ahead and just pitting or staying out, hoping for a caution. So luckily I got that caution, so I just saved fuel under the caution, and we had that one lap shootout. And Keegan ended up spinning his tires, and I got a good start. So I went from like 6th to 4th, I believe.
Yeah, kind of explain what happened on that restart for you in particular. It looks like, you got those two positions pretty quickly, and then when you got on to the bottom of the track, it just seemed like it was really nothing you could do about the position. You just had to you could try and get the number 22, which was Tyler Hudson there, but it just seemed like at that point, not really much you could do. But were all the restarts kind of like that? It looks like you actually got on the inside of him at one point. But on those restarts, how difficult were they, and how crunched up were you?
Well, for the restarts, I was on the inside. There's kind of positives and negatives. On the inside, you get the bottom, which is the preferred groove for the first few laps, but you can't see the leader at all when you're on the bottom, so you just gotta hope you can time it well. But when you're on the outside, you can see the leader, so you can time it better, but you just gotta make sure you get a spot down the bottom. That last restart was something different though. I, for the most part, didn't have a lot of tire spin. I was able to go on the throttle pretty good. But once we got going, just the combination of the rubber on the track and how old the tires were, it was so tight. I thought I was going to be able to get around Tyler, but it was so tight going into 3 that I wasn't able to get around him. But I'll hold on to 4th place.
Well, good 4th place for you, and after starting 10th, I'm sure that's got to feel pretty darn good. And before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give thanks shout-outs to?
Yes, I'd like to thank my dudes at Starting Park Express. Had a good showing tonight. My teammate Mitchell Hunt won the 2nd split race. We put several weeks into this setup, and luckily our effort showed tonight, and hopefully we can continue it throughout the season. Get a couple pro license on the team.
We'll look forward to seeing you next week and seeing what you can do at a completely different track than Texas, and we will might be able to talk to you then as well.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, there you have it. Number 21, Jacob Harberts finishes in the 4th position, and it looks like we are going to get a requested interview that Nolan is caught up with.
Yeah, I'm here with Steven Wilson up in the commentary booth. Steven, started 16th, finished 8th, pretty solid race. We didn't talk a lot about you, so I don't have a lot of fine point notes, but man, you just ran up towards the top 10, it seemed like, all race. Go ahead and just explain to me how the race went, how it progressed, and how comfortable you were throughout the experience.
Yeah, it was going pretty good. Early in the race, we were getting the top going, a little bit tight around the bottom. Just trying to make our way through the field. Almost had a little incident with Jarl, running into him when he got a little tight. But we didn't have any damage, so we kept on trucking and had a good finish in the end.
Yeah, solid finish. Love the paint scheme. We've talked about it in the past. We're just out of sheer curiosity, who is painting those paints for you guys?
Well, this particular one was by Zach Campbell himself. It took him about 5 minutes to put together. It's pretty good.
It's absolutely gorgeous. Whose picture is that on the hood of the?
Oh, that's me from a few years ago. This is during go-karting. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, we've had an opportunity to race a little bit in the off season. I'm not really sure too much about your past. This is, I'm assuming, your first season in Pro Series.
Yeah. I got iRacing in January, but I've been doing a lot of races, just getting ready for this, and I've been practicing a lot with my team.
Well, sounds good. Anybody you'd like to thank tonight for that solid top 8 finish?
Oh yeah, I'd like to thank the boys at 30chan.org and my entire Discord server. I'd also like to thank the guys at Rexus Esports for the setups and all that.
Well, fantastic. Thanks, Steven. You had a good run tonight. Hope to see you next week. And Evan, I'm going to pass it back over to you for closing.
That wraps up week number 1, and it still leaves us with 9 weeks left to go. Again, a point that I made at the top of it all is there's not a whole lot of changes to talk about on this calendar. Last year, obviously, a talking point was we had one less race with the build week dropping one. We're back to 10 this year. We're using the same format as last year. We start at Texas, we finish at Daytona, we go to Phoenix and Homestead and Fontana and et cetera, all the way through. So we're kind of familiar, I think, Coop, at this point with what to expect from this Pro Series. And tonight was a good opener. You had a couple of big incidents, both of them coming quickly off of, in fact, the lap immediately off of a restart, which never helps when you find issues there. But we had green flag runs, almost got through to those green flag pit stops, and in fact saw some at the end. And just for added measure for those who like that little bit of drama, a one-lap shootout at the end. But I think it was a great opener from Texas, and we heard with Matt there keeping us posted on split number 2 that one was exciting as well. So I'm happy that the Pro Series is back underway, and we've got plenty of action to keep folks tied over before the Peak Series returns next year.
Yeah, I think compared to last season, in particular, Evan, when we covered this particular race, I think this race in general was a lot more competitive. We saw a lot more side-by-side action. We saw a lot more moves in strategy calls that were a lot more, I would just say, competitive with each other. These guys in particular, they're working with guys who want them in the Peak Antifreeze Series. You've got guys on the teams, in many teams, mind you, that are in here working together, like we saw last year. But I think this year in particular, this is the second year we're in this format, and with getting these guys coming to rise to the occasion, Nicholas Shelton, in my opinion, I think he's going to be a guy I will look to watch next race. In particular, for as quick as he was, he had some bad luck with the 19, who also had some misfortune of his own. But that's a guy who has a lot of speed. It may not transfer to next week, but it's going to be something to watch for him. And of course, your winner tonight, Casey Kerwin, same boat for him.
And the late race yellow and restart in this didn't do any favors to the time in regards to our race, but it gave us a little bit of a late race thrill, if you will. And Matt, you were down, in heat number 2 and split 2, if you will, tonight, and that would have wrapped up a little bit before ours did, so meant a little bit more green flag racing on your end of things, and sounds like that one was a good one as well.
Yeah, it certainly was an amazing race, especially at the end there. We had a nice 70-lap run to finish things off with a side-by-side battle to cap it off for the finish. And one thing I find interesting is 3 of the guys in second split are currently in the top 10 in points. So again, as we mentioned in the beginning of the show, to stress the importance of the second and even the third split winner is 16th in points. And those races, they may not be getting all the attention top split gets, but they're still very crucial to deciding who becomes a pro.
And while us topside, we're calling the play-by-play and all of that. It was, Nolan Scott, Chris Murdoch at the analyst desk provided us a little bit more insight. Guys, what were your thoughts on tonight's race and what we should look forward to at Phoenix next week?
I was amazed with as clean as it was. I really was. I thought we'd see more cautions. I know at the end of the day we had quite a few cars a lap down. But for the most part, Casey, I really wanted to talk to him about it. He let Keegan go. Saw a lot of smart play from a lot of top runners tonight. Keegan obviously had a little bit of misfortune there at the end, but overall, a lot cleaner racing than what we saw last season in Pro, I think at the start especially of the season. Phoenix, we're going to see things get a little bit more spicy, I think. But for the most part, good clean racing. Everybody was really respectful. Most of the accidents we saw, in my opinion, were racing incidents. So looking forward to Phoenix, and hopefully we can continue to see some good long green flag racing, which is what we all love to see at Impasse. That's what Impasse is all about, and that's what the series is for, is to weed that out and to get those good long run clean drivers into the series.
Yeah, it was definitely a great race here, guys. I mean, can't express my congratulations to Casey enough. They've tried so hard. Last season didn't really go the way they planned, and they bounced back in a huge way here tonight, guys. And this team definitely knows their way around Texas, with Alan Bowes taking up that peak win, him taking the pro win, coming out of the gates really strong. wait for this season to continue underway and see what that team can do. And like you mentioned, all those top runners there, Nolan, they were smart. They were giving each other room, and I was really surprised about the trouble spot today, guys. We saw turn four, like you mentioned earlier, Evan. That seemed to really give each driver a lot of trouble, but we didn't really see it a lot, and we saw a lot of those green flag runs and saw the long run cars really rise to the top. So great racing all in all.
And with all of that being said, round number 1 of this Pro Series campaign falls into our rear view mirror. The good news is the Pro Series returns in just 1 week's time. If you do not want to wait that long, we have you covered here on LSR TV and iRacing Live. 3 straight nights of action starting this Thursday, November the 9th, with coverage of the Upstate Racing League at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. On Friday, the Super Speedway Cup Series is live beginning at 9 o'clock. And on Saturday nights, as always, it is the United Sim Racing BNC Lawn and Landscaping Truck Series with the green flag drops at 10 o'clock on the East Coast. You can find all of those at iRacing.com/live, and you can also get an extended look at our upcoming broadcast schedule by going online to livesimracing.com and keep it up to date with us on social media on Facebook at facebook.com/LSRTV official and on Twitter at LSRTV. But until next time, on behalf of the entire team at LSR TV and for our friends at Onyx as well, and everybody behind the scenes, of course, at Live Sim Racing LLC, for DJ Lyon, Laura Lawson, the entire team who makes it topside night in and night out work just as it does, and of course, for the team this evening, for myself, Evan Pasoko, Austin Coop, Nolan Scott, Chris Murdoch, Matt Busa, Cisco Scarbusa, and Aleski Aloba, we want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate race winner tonight, Casey Kerwin. The Pro Series rolls on to Phoenix International Raceway next week. That race and every race on the 2017-2018 NASCAR iRacing Pro Series can be found right here at LSR TV, your home for sim racing. Until next time, good night.